From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
It's Paul Catalina and Craig Smokey is out today. He'll be back on Monday. And for those of you who missed the end of the show yesterday, this is my last ride here on the 3 o'clock show before launching a new show on May 1st. So, Craig, you know what? I'm happy to ride it out into the sunset with you, brother.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Glad to be here and just be around for another gorgeous day in Central Texas, and hope everybody out there is doing well. But yeah, I'm honored to be part of your last show. And for those that missed it, yeah, Paul's going to be moving on to other things. So here we go. Last time.
I'll still be here doing things at 365 Sports. I just won't be doing them at 3 o'clock. So you'll see them around. We're going to have an announcement when we're ready to launch the formal thing. But just wanted to let everybody know who wasn't here at the end. And it is clearly springtime because we've got the flies back here. So wonderful. Yes, we are in an apartment building for those of you who don't know. And every spring, if we're at the bottom floor of the apartment building. But if you know about living in apartment buildings, Craig, I'm sure you have this at your apartment where because not everybody shares the same level of cleanliness, you get flies.
Yeah, and so like we're in an office space. It's not like we're not like a converted apartment or anything. We're like in an office space, but I don't know. There's something about this place in particular. Yeah. I don't live here, so I don't mind saying it. And if I don't live in this office, I don't mind saying it. But yeah, they've got a fruit fly problem of some sort that we've experienced for going on like 4 or 5 years now. Yeah. So I don't think it's just springtime. It's something else. But it's. Hello, friends. Yeah. Like Jim Nance to all the Masters people. It's like, oh, it's springtime. Hello, fruit flies. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the scene.
Yes. So here we are. And by speaking of the Masters, Rory McIlroy leading it right now. He's been kind of a train so far. Monkey's off his back, and he is looking for that second straight green jacket. But let's get started with the rundown. First up, Craig, the Big 12 has released their weekday football schedule, which we've been anticipating since the Cody Campbell, Brett Yormark tete-a-tete last week. There are a couple things to notice about this. Houston's got a couple of these. UCF has a couple of these. Haven't heard a peep from either of them about it. And Texas Tech has 2. They have the Friday night game that they were mad about, and, of course, the Thanksgiving Day game that they host against TCU, which they haven't made a peep about that one. They're thrilled about that because that's going to be a lot of good eyeballs on that game for them. But they were mad about the Friday, September the 18th one. But you see here, Missouri at Kansas, which not at all shocked that you have an old rival reborn in the border war. You got an SEC team playing at a Big 12 stadium, and that one's going to be on Friday night. Not shocked at all to see the Big 12 flex that one in there. We've talked at length about Houston and Texas Tech. Iowa State at BYU on Friday, October the 9th. Baylor goes to UCF on Friday, October 30th. TCU at Arizona the next week on November 6th. Houston at Colorado on the 13th. On the 20th, Iowa State at UCF. I believe one of those is the space game. I'm not sure which one it is. But then, of course, Thanksgiving Day. And then Friday, November 27th, West Virginia at Utah rounds out the Big 12 weekly football schedule. So outside of two weeks at the end of September and the middle 2 weeks in October, pretty much straight on through the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's a part of the real estate and part of the TV schedule that the Big 12 has to be concentrated on taking advantage of. And I know it's not everybody's favorite thing in the world to see Thursday night, Friday night games. You want to play on Saturdays. You want to have the biggest TV audience, but in part to get the biggest TV audience or to give their team some breathing room and a bigger stage rather than being on ESPN Plus on a Saturday at 2 p.m. You play on a Friday night on Fox Sports 2 at 10 o'clock at night. And you know what? It's your lone lonesome game out there, but you're all that people have a choice to watch, as opposed to being one of like 35 games going on simultaneously on an app with 15 other games going on at the same time. So that's like the trade-off. And some people like that strategy. Some people don't. The TV partners obviously have some say in that. This is the deal the Big 12 negotiated, and it's really been a non-issue other than Texas Tech a couple of weeks ago when Cody Campbell decided to make it a very public disagreement with Brett Yormark, and we've talked about that. There's no need to rehash it. I mean, both guys said what they had to say in so many words. Cody Campbell came back with a response to Brett Yormark that was pretty strong and very pro wrestling, and I've talked about that quite a bit. And so it was just funny today to see this thing drop in. Yeah, Tech doesn't have just one game. They got 2 games, but I'm like you. I don't think they're going to be bitching about Thursday, a big Thanksgiving main event platter stage for TCU, who they haven't played in a couple years now. So missed out on them last year. TCU and Texas Tech reconnect, and that'll be a fun game to have on the holiday. So not sure how Cody Campbell feels about that, but 2 weeknight games for Texas Tech. But that TCU Thanksgiving game, I think that'll be treated much differently than that Houston game earlier on in the year. And the difference, too, is when you look at the crux of the complaint for Cody Campbell, a lot of it had to do with the travel to Corvallis the week before the Houston game, then coming back playing a weeknight game. So you had one less day to prepare, to relax and rest, coming off of a longer road trip as well. So that was part of what he was complaining about. Whereas with the TCU game, it's the very last game of the year. It's the last game they play. They play Baylor the week before in Waco, and they'll actually have a couple of road games. They play Oak State and Baylor back-to-back weeks, and then they go home finally to close out the season versus TCU. So you can see where that's maybe not as big of a deal, but that will be a shorter week because originally the TCU game was listed as a Saturday, so they're going to be on a quick turnaround. It just won't maybe be as grueling travel going to Waco and coming back to Lubbock to prepare versus going to Corvallis, Oregon, and then coming back to Lubbock to prepare on a short week. So that will, if you're looking at little like, in the schedule, that is now suddenly that Thanksgiving game, one of them, because there's a very strong chance that Tech could be undefeated going into that one. Who knows with Baylor? They haven't played in a couple years, so they actually close out their season with Baylor and TCU, who they have not played. As far as they didn't play them last season. So reigniting with those two. And that could be a very compelling little few days, people hoping to see Tech take a second loss or maybe their first loss and having to deal with the travel and the short weekends there. Yeah.
And it's 2 teams, by that time, we'll know a lot about what Baylor's future is. And
Dave Aranda, if he's still the head coach at that point in time, they're keeping their head above water. If he's not, he's not. And they're doing the Oklahoma State thing where they're like, all right, we're starting our coaching search like halfway through the season.
Yeah. So that we'll know a lot about that. And then, of course, TCU, Sonny Dykes isn't going anywhere. So
just signed a new deal.
Just signed a new deal. So he's not going anywhere. But that's just going to be maybe an advantage for TCU in that they, don't have to worry about that. But they still here's the deal. Have to go to Lubbock, the hardest place to play right now.
Outside of Provo,
I
think Lubbock and Provo would be the 2 toughest places to play. It just so happens they have the 2 best teams at the moment, or have had the 2 best teams, at least over the last kind of on average couple of years. Certainly as of last year, they were 2 of the better teams. I know a couple, Houston, Utah could sit there and try to make a case for where they were. But, BYU and Texas Tech are pretty nasty at home, and those are the places you'd rather not be going. So, that'll be a tough game for TCU. At least Tech gets to end at home. But we now kind of see why. I don't know. I would love to know if Cody Campbell was privy to the fact that there was going to be 2 games. And if he was, why didn't you bitch about the TCU Thanksgiving game? Why? Because that's a cool game as opposed to the Houston game? Or did that get dropped in his lap? Or I want to play pretend in my mind and feel like Brett Yormark is like, oh, yeah, buddy, you don't like the 1 weeknight game? Well, guess what, pal? You're going to play on Thanksgiving and have 2 weeknight games. Now, I don't think TV networks work that quickly, but in my head, that's a fun way to think about things. So, I think I'm trying to actually figure out here as on the fly doing this. It's been a day, but I'm trying to think of who is not on the list because if you look at all of the teams playing, I know we'll go. Or do you want to go down the games? Or you already
I read
those off. Okay.
I read them off. But
so Colorado plays one of these games, and there's some teams that play two. Like Texas Tech clearly plays two. UCF has a couple of them. Let's see here. Houston has a couple of these games. Houston always gets the weeknight games, man. That's like their deal. So yeah, UCF, Houston, Texas Tech, TCU's got a couple of those games as well. So there's nearly a handful of teams that have two of these weeknight games that they'll be playing.
Here, I'll just tell you right now who has none. Arizona, Arizona State, Cincinnati.
Well, Arizona is not on there.
Oh, there. No,
TCU,
sorry, no. Arizona State, Cincinnati. Okay, Kansas is on there. Kansas State, are they on there? No, Kansas State's not. Kansas State doesn't have one, and Oklahoma State doesn't have one. Everyone else has at least one.
Yeah, Kansas State. You said them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I was trying to do that exercise actually myself, and you beat me to it. So I was trying to eliminate some of those. So yeah, it's Arizona State, Cincinnati, K-State, and Kansas. Yeah, those
Oklahoma
are the four.
State. Yeah, Kansas is the first one against.
Okay.
There. Yeah.
Arizona State, Cincinnati, Kansas State, Oklahoma State.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Everybody else has one or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which it is weird. I mean, you have to pick these based on matchups and scheduling and all these other factors. I would just think everyone should, if everyone had one, maybe you wouldn't have teams mad about it, but
sure,
maybe it's just not possible to do. And maybe some teams requested like, hey, no, we'll play that Friday night game because we would like that one to be alone. We're not gonna kick rocks at you.
Yeah, I don't know how that actually goes. I would love to be able to talk to somebody. Maybe next time we get one of the TV executives on, we can talk to them about that. Or if we ever get Brett Yormark on again at some point, then we can ask him about that. But it's fun to just have this sort of dropped in our laps and be able to discuss it and look at the schedule a little bit closer because we've had the teams for a while now. We just don't know like when and how the full layout is with times and things of that nature. So to start getting some of that's fun just to kind of tide you over until the full on, let's count down to the season starting up here in a few months, but we're still a little bit of a ways away from that. So, I mean, Houston, Texas Tech leading things off, I think will be a really, really fun game. That Missouri-Kansas game the week prior will be, I think, a game that has a lot of attention on it, and that was a really intriguing game last year that was pretty entertaining. Had Missouri with like their half.
Kansas had them where they wanted.
Yeah, they did,
and they let them off the hook.
Yeah, they did. It was an entertaining game. Missouri's field was like half finished right at that point, if I'm remembering correctly. So it was just kind of an interesting backdrop. But yeah, I think Missouri-Kansas ought to be a very interesting game. Just if you know with those two teams and their history. Houston Tech will be good. Iowa State, man, I don't know. That could be a bloodbath. I don't get the sense that Iowa State fans have definitely taken a hit to the armor of confidence. And why would you not when you lose Matt Campbell and all that he built up as far as that armor goes? I really don't have like positive, optimistic predictions for Iowa State right now. I look at the schedule and just all the uncertainty, and I don't see where there's a lot of success to be had, but that's Jimmy Rogers' job to prove people like me wrong. So maybe they're a surprise, or maybe that's just a game that's over by halftime because the Cougar tails are flying around, and that night setting in Provo is just too much, but that'll be a tough game for the Cyclones for sure. Baylor UCF, they've played a few times now at this point. Be fun for the Baylor faithful to go down to Orlando in the fall. TCU Arizona could be a heck of a game with some Big 12 title implications. Houston Colorado, Houston the Friday Night Kings, getting their matchup with Dion, who knows at that point where Colorado is. If they're pretty good, that should get good ratings. If they're not, then it probably won't. I mean, Houston may carry some of that. Iowa State, UCF, who the heck knows? TCU, Texas Tech will be great. And then West Virginia, Utah, we'll see when we get there. West Virginia, another one of those wild cards for me. And Utah, everybody just kind of assuming that they'll be just business as usual. But let's see first, because it is a brand new head coach.
I think they'll be a tough out no matter what.
I think so, yeah.
Now, are they going to be 9-3, 10-2, and contending for the
Every
title?
year? Yeah.
That remains to be seen. But Utah is going to be a tough out. There's no doubt in my mind, just given the fact that they'll be able to run the ball like they will, and that's always tough. And their defense is always consistent.
Except for last year.
Their
defense last year was not very consistent. They were not very good against the run. They were embarrassingly bad against the run at times. So if that gets fixed, and Morgan Scalley is your head coach now, so that's directly on him even more than before, then if that gets fixed, I think you like a lot of the rest of it that you see with them, and there's no reason why you should expect some drop off even with the change of head coach.
Yeah, there's not a game on this schedule. I mean, honestly, when I look at it, Baylor and West Virginia are the two, and Kansas are the three big question marks I have. I actually have less questions about UCF because I think they'll be I think they're going to be a bowl team this year. So I think you know what you're going to get with them. I think with Alonzo Barnett, Scott Frost year 2, they're going to be okay. Do I think they're going to win the conference? Absolutely not. But the only teams on this list that I really don't have a grasp on what my expectations are West Virginia and Baylor,
So what do you expect from Iowa State? You expect them to be?
You know what? I keep forgetting that Matt Campbell's gone.
Yeah.
At least I know he's gone, but I keep forgetting it. So no, Iowa State, actually now they've become the biggest wild card because their whole roster is gone.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of know what to expect from Dave Aranda. It's just a matter if it'll be good enough to win games, but we kind of know the deal there. I mean, my God, we've watched him for going on 5-6 years now at this point. So, I mean, hell, he's nearly as long tenured as Matt Campbell at this stage, oddly enough. But no, not quite. And we'll see. He might get there. I mean, he's lasted a lot longer than people expected and many wanted in some cases. I'm a fan of Dave Aranda, the person, but there's no doubt he's got to get it together. So yeah, Baylor's a mystery. Iowa State, like I said, I don't have a lot of optimism about them, but who knows? We'll see. I mean, that's the fun. We're all experts right now, but then you look at what was it, especially 2 years ago, and all we thought that we knew about the Big 12 outside of some obvious things like, hey, BYU will be good. Beyond that, we didn't know that Arizona was going to, or I guess that was last year, Arizona was going to flip things on their head a little bit, and some others would be worse than we expected. So that, I'm sure that will be the case to some degree. I'm eagerly looking forward to finding out what those teams will be and that we overestimated or underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving along. Let me pull up my sheet once again. Mike Elko told Chris, did an interview with Chris Lowe this week, and it was interesting in that as more and more coaches, Craig, jump on the maybe we need more teams in the college football playoff bandwagon, Mike Elko said the format shouldn't be like March Madness. The importance of the regular season is still very much in line with what I believe it's always been. Could that be the case with a larger number? Potentially, but I think we need to create some data points to figure out where that balance is. We don't need to be NCAA basketball. The beauty of our sport is that there are games at the end of the season that matter that people lose.
Yes, and there's less of those now than there was 5 years ago, and that was the downside of the expansion of the playoffs. So if you expand it even further, even if it's just 4 teams, then there's the danger that you water that down even further. So that's why you've had such outspoken proponents about how the playoff ruins the regular season. I think the playoffs have been an inevitability. I mean, I've been talking about it myself for over 30 years. I was a wee child watching college football thinking about what a playoff would look like. I think we all did that if we've been fans long enough. So we all, in some ways, thought about what it would look like and dreamt of how cool it would be. We just didn't take into account maybe all the time the greedy bastards behind the schools and the TV networks that would say, oh, you want a playoff, huh? Well, we'll give it to you. And then we're going to add all this other stuff to it as well and make it our version of what you think you want. And we're kind of straddling that line of, yeah, I think we've got something that still has remained pretty damn cool, but we're tinkering with it. And you keep tinkering with it, you're eventually going to cause a break somewhere where there wasn't a break. And I think the regular season still ended up being pretty impactful, but you start adding more teams. And yeah, like now Texas can lose 4 games and they're in the playoff, or Oklahoma can lose 3 games and the end of the game of the year, but it's like, oh, well, they're 13th in the polls. So Is that good or bad for the sport? I don't know. I guess you could say it keeps Oklahoma fans more engaged as opposed to just rooting for some big bowl game. They still make the playoff. At the same time, like, Oklahoma fans are engaged regardless. So I don't think they needed that to ride out the end of the year. And now it makes that loss in week 3 that seemed like a big deal and would have been like a killer maybe 2 years ago. Now it's like, oh, we still got 2 more mulligans. We're good. And so that's a different sport altogether than the one I grew up watching. I can adjust to that, but the more you do that, the more you say, like, now the 8-4 teams, come on down. And you're allowed at 8-4, but you're not allowed because I like your logo better. And like, that's the kind of thing that I think will really screw this thing up. So I'm with them. Like, I'm all for staying at 12 for a little while longer. I'm glad that we're at 12 for another year. I think they needed to let it breathe. And I think last year was pretty damn exciting, all things considered. Okay, there's some blowouts, but like, dude, what? Even like Alabama's gotten their ass kicked recently.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter who you're at. Indiana was kicking all sorts of blue blood ass last year.
Yeah.
Like, so the logo doesn't mean like, oh, we're blowout proof, so let us in the tournament, but not those guys. They've never won a national title. Like, that's where we get into this thing's just rigged and an invitational, and that's what we need to avoid more than anything else. But the bigger you make it, the more odds are that you turn it into that.
The bottom line is, if you look at 12 teams, you can, on the most controversial year at 12 teams, you might have 3 to 4 teams that have an argument that got snubbed, right? At 16 teams, you probably have no teams that have an argument. And that maybe is the best argument for it, in that, well, this just kind of takes out all the argument from that. Like, there's 16 teams. Everything's a lot closer now. That to me is the best argument for it. And I still don't like that argument. That's the only one that I can really come to grips with. That's like, all right, well, at least we won't have to get down to the who's better, Miami or Notre Dame. Like, one beat one of them by 1 point early in the, like, those kind of things we won't have to worry about. But if you get to 24, then you've got maybe on some years 14 teams that don't need to be in this thing.
Right, yeah.
Like, that can't even measure up at all to the 12 teams that are. And that to me is a huge problem, in that you're going to have teams and then the worst part about it's going to be, if you're one of those 10-2 teams that feels pretty good about themselves, the quarterback gets hurt in the last game, and then you lose to maybe even a 7-5 team that's in the top 24 in the first round of the playoffs. You're going to be like, what was this all for? What did we do this for? We beat a bunch of 7-5 teams on the way here, only to have one get to play us because we couldn't figure out how to say no to people, and we're just going to expand this out. So 12 teams, that's the other thing about college football. Good enough is never good enough for them. And if they would just say, we're going to embrace this 12-team playoff until we absolutely get hit by a truck of it has to be 16. Until the numbers tell us it has to be 16. Because 12 is, at least for right now, the parity has clearly expanded. It has grown. You just said it. Nobody's immune to blowouts. Nobody's ever not going to win one anymore. Indiana won it for the first time ever last year, and nobody thought that they were a football school. The means are out there to do it if you have the right leadership in place. So why don't we just let this play out at 12? Like Mike Elko said, get tons of data points. And if we get 5 years down the line, we get to the new TV deals, and it is evident that the way that the conferences are shifting, the way that the parity is shifting, that 16 teams is the number, then roll out those numbers and prove it to us. Don't just give us all this theoretical, like, well, here's the thing, because I know, Tony Petitti, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create TV broadcasts. But first, you got to make good games, because TV broadcasts and good games are not synonymous with each other. You can put anything on television. You want to make sure you have the best games, especially for your best time of the year. Bottom line.
Yep. So that's why this playoff debate's been going round and round and round since they created it, basically. We had our bones to pick and our things that we loved about the 4-team, and then we've now moved on to 12, and inevitably we will move on to some type of growth on that, but not this year. So in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy it, and we'll still bitch about it and all that. But at least we get one more year of this 12 rather than kind of trying to force the add on of 4 more teams. without even taking a minute to let it simmer a little bit and see how it would work out. So, yeah, I'm glad we'll have some more of the 12 team, and then we'll see what happens at the end of the year. But, yeah, that conversation is definitely not stopping, and it's much like March Madness. It seems kind of inevitable that no matter whether it's good or bad for the game, it's good for the pocketbook. So, like everything else that revolves in the world right now, that's probably what's going to decide things.
Absolutely. Also from Chris Lowe, and staying in the SEC, new Auburn coach Alex Golesh said when he talked to his team, I love this quote, "I went into it very upfront with them. This is about to be the hardest shit you've ever gone through in your life, physically, mentally, and emotionally." And I love that quote. Right off the bat, you just tell them, hey, it's going to suck. Yeah. But at the end of it, he believes they're going to win, because he follows that up with, it's been proven that you can do it here. I do think it gets frozen in time for us as adults. What my perception of Auburn is that a blue blood upper echelon program in history would indicate such. He later added, "We know what Auburn is. That's why I'm here. And now we're building back that brand." Now, this is all great first-year coach speak, but I do think Auburn does need a coach that admits openly to their fan base that he understands that they have to get back there, and he knows that that's what the expectations are, and that he knows that they have a ways to go to get there, because I don't think that's necessarily happened over the last couple of coaches. And I think that happens at programs like Auburn, Craig, because you come in going, well, this is Auburn. Like, I changed the spark plugs on this thing and it'll hum. Well, that's not always the case.
No, it's not. Interesting phrase he used there, blue blood. Is Auburn a blue blood?
One title.
They've got two. Well, actually, they've got two officially recognized titles. They've got like 9 that they claim. So by their definition, I think they're a blue blood, because how could you be a nearly 10-time national champion and not be a blue blood? But by everybody else's definition of what we typically would count, they are, I believe, a 2-time national champion. Obviously, the 2010 Cam Newton, and then they had one in the 50s, I believe, as well. Can correct me on that, but I believe that's right. So, yeah, I don't think that's a blue blood. I don't think of Auburn as a blue blood. If they had 9 legitimate, like, recognized national titles, then hell, they're like right behind Bama. But as far as the ones I say, yeah, that counts. No, they're not a blue blood, even though they've got a couple of titles. But the point being, I think he's saying all the things you want a new coach to say. I don't think there's much he can say that won't charge up the fan base. If you're a brand new head coach with a fiery fan base that wants to win, you really have to screw up to mess that chemistry up. So Auburn, as fanatical as they are, like, I'm sure they're loving every bit of that. And hell yeah, coach, put them to the fire, and let's get these guys rolling. I'm excited to see what he can do, because I think in light of the coaching hiring grades that I've read about, and there was a lot of praise for that hire, I've also seen a lot of doubt about Alex Golesh as the hire at Auburn. Like, a lot of people thinking that maybe he's not going to be as great as some people think. So I'm curious about that myself. He obviously did a really good job at South Florida, but the knock would be, like, who wouldn't? You had all the best players as far as comparatively to the teams of your size and bank account and those things. Like, you had the talent advantage. So it would be like Texas Tech in the Big 12 to some degree, like not winning more games. Like, you should win more games. And that's the argument some people put out there that I've seen against Alex Golesh. I mean, now now he's swimming with sharks and everything's pretty equal, or you are as good off as you might be, still behind others, because you're just playing in that kind of a league. He's got quite a challenge on his hands. I mean, Hugh Freeze was just a mess. I mean, absolute mess. I did not hate to see that in the way that it did. I don't root for people's failures or anything, but I didn't like shed a tear when the Freeze era didn't work out perfectly, you know?
It's hard to get behind someone that I think that publicly it's hard to trust someone like that.
He just comes across as like, and he's just too evangelical Christian fake to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he feels like a mega church pastor.
Yeah, he feels like a dude who's just BSing on Sundays to fill the coffers.
We're a football coach.
Like the knockoff brand of, and so that's just the vibe I always got from him. And for me personally, that is nothing for me. So it's not been my favorite guy. But yeah, that was not a good little run. under Hugh Freeze. So they're desperate to win, man. And I think he's going to have everything at his fingertips to try and win. And I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yes. I think one of the things to advocate for Alex Golesh, one of the things he was able to do was he was able to convince the powers that be at USF to go all in on spending money and things. And that is something you're going to have to constantly do, whether at USF, whether at Auburn, Notre Dame, Ohio State. You have to make sure that you can convince them to continue to go all in, because sports is a fickle lady. You can have everything, you have every ducks in a row. Ohio State this year is going to spend as much money on their roster as anybody else. But if they go 9-3 and miss the playoff because they had a couple of quirky games, then Ryan Day is going to go back to the boosters and say, hey, here's what I need this year. And it's like, well, we gave you that last year and you went 9-3. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, I just won the national championship a couple years ago. He's like, yeah, but you didn't this year. Like that's how money works. Like that's how it is. And that the people you're asking for that money, are in a what have you done for me lately mindset more now than ever, because they've seen how quickly things can turn around with a different person. I'm not saying this is going to happen to Ryan Day, but I'm just saying that like it could not happen to him. You have to be able to constantly convince those people. USF is trying to make it into a big time, trying to put some forces behind their athletic department. They're building an on-campus stadium, which is going to be huge for them. All those things Alex Golesh was able to accomplish. I don't think a coach like Hugh Freeze gets that done nowadays. I really don't. Yeah. So those are the good things about him, and that he has an understanding of the modern game. But also, when you are at an advantage that your school, USF, has decided to do it, and then half the schools in your league just don't have the financial capacity to do it yet, then that's an advantage that you don't have in the SEC, where at best you can hope for a school in a recruiting cycle or a couple years that is just underwater on buyouts and having to power down for a little bit. That's the best you can hope for in the SEC.
And I think to be clear on my point about like at USF having the money, like, yeah, the donors deserve credit. The boosters, they've been clearly trying to make a push to get them into the Big 12, for example, now for the last few years, trying to catch that last ship before it sets sail to wherever this all goes one day. And so they've definitely banded together and done a great job of trying to put USF in a better place. And I think they've done that. And so when I say things like that, or compare it to a Texas Tech having a talent advantage versus most of, if not all of the Big 12, like people get defensive about that weirdly. And it's like, it's not a knock. It's just true. I mean, ask everybody USF played, ask USF, like you're bragging about the fact you raised so much money and you had this talent. So yeah, commend them for that. It's not a negative. And now it's not going to matter as much, because you're in a league where as much as you are going to get resources, which will be a step above what you were even getting in Tampa, compared to the sharks swimming around you, it's a completely different ocean you're in now, where there's just nothing but great whites basically around you. Whereas before it's like the occasional hammerhead, and here's like, oh, there's a nurse shark. That's cute. But now it's just great whites and tiger sharks rolling around. I think Byron Brown playing in the SEC is going to be really fun to watch as well. So yeah, good luck to Alex Golesh. I mean, he's saying the right things. We're going to practice harder than anybody. I mean, dude, when you've been around college football long enough, you've seen enough coaches hired, it's all kind of the same thing ultimately. But he's got him fired up, and I'm here for it. I'm here to see how Alex Golesh does at Auburn.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big fan of his. Anyways, so this was something Smokey put this on the rundown a couple of days ago, and it's a quip about Big Ten versus SEC donors. Although I think following up on Alex Golesh, it actually hits a little bit different. The quote is, SEC donors own car dealerships, Big Ten donors own car manufacturers. And this was put up by Matt Fortuna, who does a great job covering college athletics. While I think that might be true to a level, let's not pretend like there's not car manufacturer, like big time agricultural oil people and all that live in the SEC as well. I think that some of the smaller schools in the SEC might have this issue, but you've got Vanderbilt in there, man. You're not telling me that there's Vanderbilt alums that are, massive billionaire CEOs. Like, no, there's that. I think the issue the true issue comes, I think the SEC is a little surprised because I do think that there were a bunch of donors and people in the Big Ten who just didn't live that same culture as SEC boosters did of, well, not that they weren't, but like a lot of schools that now are spending money on things, the people that would have spent that money didn't want the bad PR burn that would have come with getting caught. That was more important to them than their team winning because they didn't want to be – they have so many irons in the fire business-wise that, oh, are you the guy that helped Rutgers win? Like that, they don't want that. They don't want any negative press about anything. So now it doesn't matter. You can give as much money as you want, and nobody's going to blink at you because it's the rules. But before, the culture was so that there were a bunch of wealthy people who could have, but because of their personal corporate interests, they just weren't going to do that. As where SEC – the Big 12 Southwest Conference, all this kind of area in the South, it was just built into the nature of it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think of, this is kind of not right on what you're talking about here, but it makes me think of what I saw a couple of weeks ago with Oregon State alum Jensen Wang from NVIDIA. He's the founder and CEO of NVIDIA, and he donated $50 million back in 2022, and I think he had another gift that had come around, but like none of it went to sports. Like all of it was to like academics and computer sciences and things like that. And I've seen a couple of other donors that have done similar moves, but like just because you have big donors doesn't mean they're sports fans.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably more of those Big Ten types that are that way than the Southern schools probably have. Not to say there aren't that, like Texas has Michael Dell, but he also contributes to sports. But they probably have some people who are very well off. They're like, no, I'm going to give it to the arts and sciences, or I'm going to give it to whoever, but I'm not interested in sports. So
yeah, the basketball players beat me up, so no.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, it just kind of depends. I do think that just in the South culturally, it means more. Literally, that's your slogan. That's your like copyrighted trademark slogan for the conference. And I think for a long time that kind of showed when, yeah, all things were a little bit more equal. But now that people up in Chicago and New York and whatever can kind of flex their muscle and their billfolds, then we're starting to see a bit of a change as far as that goes. And so I don't know if that's the greatest comparison he made. I understand, though, what he was going for. I think the Southern schools, especially you look at Texas A&M, we don't have to leave the state to find some billionaires and plenty of them. I mean, hell, Texas Tech's got a billionaire that's very, very out front.
He's just the one who's the face of it.
Well, that's why I said very out front. Yeah, because I know there's others, but there's one in particular that everybody knows that's in the news all the time now, and Cody Campbell. But I think the Big Ten was able to unlock another bank account that they weren't necessarily using before, and that's certainly paying off well now, and they've benefited greatly from the change in rules, and they are being, I guess, beaten over our heads with how great their run here has been as of late, because I know there's a lot of people that are like, all right, the Big Ten's great, cool, moving on. But hey, if I were them, can you imagine if the Big 12 had won the football title, the men's basketball title, the women's basketball title, with the hockey title here this week? I think people would be losing their minds. So we're hearing a lot about it, and it's also coming from a lot of those same places. And you know what? When you go win like they have, you can flash that cash and flash those trophies, and that's what the Big Ten's doing right now. I don't know if this is like they're just going to run things for the next 20 years. I think the SEC is still going to have something to say about that on occasion, but I do think they've had a unique blend of the old teams doing their thing and then the new teams like Indiana doing their thing as well. It's just compounded and made it, wow, like, oh, whoa, look at what they're doing over there. It's that much more impressive.
Absolutely. When we come back, we've been wanting to talk about this for about 3 days, Craig. The list of spring games coming up this weekend. We're going to go through those expectations for those teams and any thoughts that we have on spring football, which pretty much wraps up this week. There's a few spring games next week too, I believe.
Yeah, this is a pretty full schedule. Where we're starting, though, to get into the wind-down mode. But by the end of the month, obviously, everything will be wrapped up. But, you got some interesting ones this week that we can talk about. And I think there's going to be a few stragglers that last a little while. Let me see. Yeah, we got another, 3 weeks left of games to trickle on through. Like UCF doesn't have a game until May 2nd. So that's still a little bit of a ways away. But this is one of the this is one of the weekends where for the next 2 or 3 weeks we're going to see a lot of these games. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
This is 365 Sports.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery for my G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
We're celebrating the Declaration of Deals at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. Cash in on $11,000 off a new Ram 2500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or choose 0% for 36 months, plus no payments for 90 days. Feel secure with America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Ooh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Yeah, floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. Paul and Craig with you here on this Friday. And Craig, this is something you put together earlier this week. We haven't been able to get to it yet, but there are a nice little chunk of spring games this weekend across a bunch of conferences. Alabama, Colorado, Florida, Mississippi State, Pittsburgh, Purdue, Stanford, Tennessee, and Syracuse. Do you want to run down the list and talk about those, or?
Yeah, we can kind of go sort of one by one, but I mean, these are not the only games. These are the main teams that kind of stood out as far as that goes. But as I was saying before the break, there's quite a few games still to come. I mean, there's actually 4 games today. Rice, Montana, Nevada, among the I think Sacred Heart was on the list that I saw and had saved a while back that has a game tonight. I know all you Sacred Heart fans out there are just clamoring and screaming at your television or computer about me not having the great information there. But, I mean, these are some of the bigger brands, and I'm just kind of cross-checking with the list here to see if there's anybody major. But, there's others, Kennesaw State, Harvard, Bowling Green, Alcorn State, Wofford, Jackson State, Illinois State. I mean, there's tons of schools like that as well that are also having spring games tomorrow. And then I mentioned next weekend, there's going to be a bunch of Friday games. There's going to be, I think, Texas Tech is next Friday, actually. And then next Saturday, a bunch of games, and then the following week, same thing there. So there's still about 3 weeks left to go in spring ball, and I know it's not quite what it was, but I still want to at least acknowledge that their springs are wrapping up, and it's a good time to check in. And like I did with Dion earlier this week, just to kind of see what the vibes are and see if everybody's healthy. And then, of course, those closing spring press conferences where you get like the last little bit of audio or quotes from coaches. So I'm looking forward to that part of it, just to kind of see what interesting stories may come out of some of these games. But yeah, we can take a look at the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Here.
So Rez, give us a nice little split screen there with the schedule, if you can. Let's start with Alabama, Craig. The Crimson Tide under Kalen DeBoer. I mean, they're coming off a playoff win over Oklahoma, which most Oklahoma fans think shouldn't have had to happen because they beat them in the regular season. And then Alabama got gifted a playoff berth because of the ACC's dumbassery in their standings.
Mm-hmm.
But it is fair to say that he has not reached what the expectations are at Alabama, fair or unfair. This is a new season. Ty Simpson's gone. He's got a quarterback battle. I would assume it's going to be Keelan Russell as the starter and not Austin Mack that came with him from Washington. But I think that's the biggest thing that Tuscaloosa is worried about right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really interesting time there because we have not seen them show much weakness. I mean, they didn't win the national championship every single year. They had their own fair share of bad losses. I can still hear Vern Lundquist with Chris Davis.
Yeah.
And probably the greatest play I've ever seen in sports history, I think, might be that kick six a few years back. It's up there for me. It's on the podium, I think. It's up there with it's like my version of the band is on the field.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Alabama's had some rough patches, but still been way better than what most everybody else has ever experienced. But I think this year, yeah, there's the intrigue of just like, is Kalen DeBoer the guy? Like, yes, they made the playoff last year, but as you said, it was kind of like it was more about the situation. Like Oklahoma, like the situation allowed them to make the playoff, whereas they might not. And we look at that year a lot differently. Alabama was they're a bit more of a borderline. Like, I can't just guarantee they're going to make the playoff every year from here on out. Whereas before, you sort of guarantee they're going to play for the national championship every single year. And now it's like, I don't know. There's a weird, but also intriguing uncertainty post Saban where, they're still really good, but they're not as bulletproof as they were. And that's just the part to me that's really interesting about Alabama. But yeah, the quarterback battle, Keelan Russell's a guy that's got people very, very excited. They're going to have to just be better offensively in a lot of be more well-rounded than they were a year ago.
Ball.
Starting with running the football. I mean, Alabama not being a good running team, not a great running team, not even being a good running team whoa, what's going on here? So yeah, run the damn ball. That should be the motto of the Alabama spring game, run the damn ball. But got a lot of talent, as you would expect. And interested to see who emerges from that quarterback battle.
Absolutely. Colorado, we talked about with Matt McChesney yesterday. This is going to be a spring game that's about learning the new systems. And if you haven't seen that interview, go back and watch it. It was really interesting about Matt's view on he went out and got Brendan Marion. He got stuck with Chris Marv because his defensive coordinator went to the NFL. But I think it's all about new systems there and getting those installed. And what can you do, especially on offense around Juju Lewis? Also, a recurring theme we're going to have is run the damn ball, Colorado. That alone, stopping the run and running the ball, is what keeps them at best in the middle of the pack in the Big 12. If they could ever establish that, that's when they'll break through.
Yeah, man. Dion says the right things. They're like, no, it's coming, or it's fine, or whatever. But it's like, all right, dude, you got to show us at this point. I mean, you haven't shown that you can effectively run the football your entire time at Colorado. It's been about the quarterback and the receivers, and I think those things more than it's been about being able to just put the hammer down when you need to. There is a little bit of a quarterback battle there, although Julian Lewis is certainly the guy. If the season were to start today, he's the starter. But you know what? Isaac Wilson's interesting being behind him because he's got a lot of experience. We've seen him at times over the last couple of years. Not like the greatest quarterback in the world, but if Julian Lewis were to go down or something, I think that's a nice little backup quarterback to have. And Deion's apparently a big fan of Isaac Wilson's based on what he said. But yeah, this to me is about, okay, the go-go offense. I mean, how much do we see of that? What does that even look like in a spring game format? Like, how much does Brennan Marion flash the go-go offense? I'm far less worried about that than I am the defense, because as you said, that was not their intention to have Chris Marv as their defensive coordinator. That was a position coach hire that suddenly turned into a defensive coordinator hire because Robert Livingston decided, I'm going to go coach the Broncos. And as Matt said yesterday, for like a discount, basically. So yeah, I'm very leery of Chris Marv in the defense. And this will be an opportunity for Colorado to get a little bit of a taste of what that might look like. But to me, that's definitely the weak spot, because I have full confidence that Brennan Marion's going to be able to put something together that puts points on the board. I don't know if it's going to be prolific, but I don't think that will be their Achilles heel when the time comes. I think what will let them down would be, as of right now, that those question marks on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Craig. Florida, John Sumrall in year one in Gainesville. Aaron Philo at quarterback, running Buster Faulkner's offense. Jaden Baugh is back. Dallas Wilson is back. They've got a ton of weapons on offense. Billy Napier, I'm going to compare this. John Sumrall has potential to do something here that gets done once in a while. I think that Billy Napier was able to build a really strong roster. Now, look, comings and goings because of the transfer portal happen here, so it's not a total apples-to-apples comparison if it does. But he did build a really strong roster, and I wonder if John Sumrall can have the same kind of year one impact. He could be sitting on a Bob Stoops when he first got to Oklahoma scenario, where John Blake had kind of loaded up the roster with some pretty damn good players, and then he just didn't know how to coach them. Bob Stoops came in there and coached them, won a national title, then got to a bunch of other ones and never won again. But I do think that if you have Jaden Baugh and the wide receivers that they have, the offensive linemen that they have at Florida, the defense that they had there under Billy Napier, but better decisions, I think that's a team that can flip it around really quick, even though it's been rough for them.
Yeah, I think they just almost improved by default in some ways, like with the changeover in coaches. And Aaron Philo is who you expect, but Tramel Jones getting a lot of love as far as the quarterback battle goes, and I think that's been ongoing. So I would expect Philo will be the guy when all was said and done. Why'd you leave Georgia Tech if not just take over, as you've been Haynes King's backup and seen a lot of time there in Atlanta recently? But I would expect that it's ultimately Philo there, but they got some things to work out up front, offensively and defensively. That's one of the bigger storylines for them throughout spring, and just trying to ensure that, especially in football in general, I don't make it means more in the SEC, but like I do think in the trenches, like that's the difference maker for you a lot of the times. And so I think Florida still got some question marks there. They're undoubtedly going to have some talent there, but as units, how does that come across? And then just, the whole changeover in coaching from Billy Napier, who, at the time I thought was a really good hire, and now the benefit of hindsight, obviously that wasn't as good of a hire, but I have a lot more confidence they got the right guy this time around, and they better sure hope so, man, because it's still Florida. So like, no matter what, they always have the ability to bounce back and be right back in the spotlight, just like that. But it takes a little longer when you just keep floating away farther and farther. And it feels like they've been kind of floating off of the radar now for kind of just floating farther and farther out from the spotlight. Lagway and all of that last year was just not good. So I think this is a healthy restart for the Gators, and one you should be excited about.
Well, if you're a Gators fan, if you're a person who likes humanity, then not. But no, I see just something here, a shift, like getting someone like John Sumrall. It's just different.
Just feels healthy. Like it doesn't feel toxic and like, oh my God, Billy Napier's hot seat and blah, 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 blah. We did that for like 2 or 3 years. And DJ Lagway, he's hurt. He's not, he's hurt. He's not, he's hurt. Oh, he sucks. He's good. He sucks. That was like all of last year.
I do think that a lot of doubt was cast by a lot of people at Florida about Billy Napier before he even really got started because of the Jaden Rashada thing.
Yeah.
I think the Jaden Rashada thing exposed some, let's just say, weaknesses that their fundraising arm had before it even really got started. They made these big promises. They, had this number one quarterback who ultimately has wound up doing nothing because he's transferred all around now since then. He was at Florida. He was at Georgia. He was at Sac State. Like, he's been all over. He was at Florida. He was at Arizona State. He was at Georgia. Then he's at Sac State. I don't know where he is now. I think that's where he
Rashada?
Yeah.
I'm trying to
yeah. But I know it's Florida, Arizona State, Georgia,
he's at Sacramento State, right?
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where he was.
Yeah. So he's moved all over the place.
Oh, no. He's at Mississippi State now.
Oh, he's at Mississippi State. So
yeah, he's on School 4. And he is a redshirt sophomore. So I mean, you asked me that, and I was like, where is he now?
Yeah.
So Arizona State early enrollee in 2023, starting quarterback, then Georgia in 2024, then Sac State in 2025, and now Mississippi State. So every year a new school.
Yeah, and in Florida, he was going to be there in a week, and they didn't pay him his money. And
we had fraud lawsuits going on.
Yeah, fraud lawsuits going on. And I think that from the jump, a lot of people, so if you were thinking about getting involved in the collective at Florida at that time, and then you hear this, you're like, well, I'm going to wait until you get this organized because I don't want to be part of a fraud lawsuit yet. So all of that happened at once. And so Billy Napier walked in, ironically, to a swamp, that needed to get cleaned out and was sinking right away. It maybe through no fault of his own. I mean, if I'm Billy Napier and I go to you, Craig, and I say, okay, well, this kid wants this much money. This is the deal. It's like, yeah, we've got him a deal. He's going to be paid this much day one, and then we're going to pay him this much a year. And you're like, all right, you got the money? Oh, yeah, man, we got the money. Did you get your check? We got the money. And then, December 28th rolls around when the first check is due, and he doesn't get it. And he calls up and goes, hey, can I get it? And they're like, we're going to have to put some stuff out of our savings. And do you take Venmo? Like what?
Well, Florida State and UCF and USF all lucky they didn't get caught up in the early bunglings of the Florida schools when it came to NIL, because Miami and Florida definitely had some of the more embarrassing, like, what the hell is going on here type of situations between the two of them. But I mean, all that was going on. That's all toxic and not stuff that you want to talk about as a fan. You want to talk about your quarterback, your star prospect suing the school for lack of NIL payments. I mean, that's all ridiculous. But one thing that's interesting about Florida is they got a bunch of former Baylor guys on that team. I just happened to come across their roster the other day, and like Brendan Bett, and I believe they're all still there at this point, but between transfers and just sticking around, like Brendan Bett's there, Samu Taumanapepe is there, DK Kalu is there, and DJ Coleman's now there. So they just, and I know Ron Roberts had been there, right?
And he's gone now.
But he's on to Arkansas. So it's not just that now. It's not like when he brought Brendan Bett over, that was like, okay, yeah, Ron Roberts, that makes sense. But now it's like Ron Roberts isn't even there, and they've got even more Baylor guys. It's just kind of weird how a collection of those players have all flocked to Gainesville. But just thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Next up, you mentioned hot seat when talking about Billy Napier, and he got roaster right off it onto James Madison. But Mississippi State, Craig, I think this is the key year for Jeff Lebby. It has to start going right, or they're going to have to make a change.
I don't know, man, where they are in the patience scale. I need to probably go dig around some Mississippi State circles and see kind of where they feel like they are with Jeff Lebby. I felt like, the Arizona State win last year was super huge, and you're like, oh, wow, man, they're on track. But then they fell short of making the postseason. So he's now 7-18. And the big part about that is you're 1-15 in SEC play. So, from that standpoint, they've got to get this thing figured out. It's year 3. You've got to win more than one game in the SEC to feel like you're making any sort of a progress whatsoever. So, initially you say that, I'm kind of like, well, and the reason why I kind of say well to begin with is because, what is Mississippi State's expectations? I know they're not sitting there content to be like the doormat of the Southeastern Conference, although they're not totally unfamiliar with that. They're a proud program, though, that's had some pretty good teams. So, yeah, I don't think anybody's thinking you got to be playing for the title in the next couple of years, but do you feel like, by year 3, you better be competing for the postseason? I would think so. So, yeah, if they fall short of that, then maybe it gets a little noisy around him. They've got, I was taking a quick look. They got a road trip to Minnesota in week 2, road trip to South Carolina right after that, Mizzou, Bama at home, at LSU, Oklahoma at home, at Texas, Vandy at home, Auburn at home, SEC special in late November, Tennessee Tech, and then at Ole Miss. So you tell me where all those wins are coming from. I see a couple on there. I see one against UL Monroe. I see another SEC special in November against Tennessee Tech. But, Bubba, this is what you start to ask for. You're like, 9 conference games, huh? Yeah, let's go 9 conference games, see what that looks like. All right, that means you're probably playing an Ole Miss or an Oklahoma or a Texas or an LSU that you wouldn't be. Dude, you're playing Mizzou, Bama, LSU, Oklahoma, Texas, Ole Miss, Auburn. Vandy even is like a name you go now and you say, wow, Vandy's pretty good even. So, woo, that's tough sledding right there, man. I don't know where all those 6 wins are going to come from, but yeah, I would think that would be your bottom line sort of expectation for this year.
Vandy took a quarterback out of the lap of Georgia this year, and Jared Curtis. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay, hold on. I was told we have a super chat. So let me read that. $2 from retired stockbroker. Is Paul's new show called Unfrozen FSU Caveman Lawyer? No, it is not. But retired stockbroker, you get me, and you get what the vibe is going to be. That's the vibe. That's the vibe we're shooting for. So I can't wait to announce it, and we'll do some little previews and stuff for you once it comes down the line. But we just have to get the exact delivery and scheduling of all that done, which we needed to get this one done and then the other one first. So thank you for that. But you get me, buddy. You get me. I appreciate that. Craig, let's take this over after a break into the next segment and finish this out because Pittsburgh, Purdue, Stanford, Syracuse, and Tennessee all have interesting questions about them. Some new coaches, some who is the quarterback, and Pitt, the one we'll talk about next, has a really good young quarterback in Mason Heinschel that I think a lot of the country maybe doesn't know a lot about. Well, that's after this. This is 365 Sports.
In the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Carr Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings. The GMC Sierra delivers strength, power, and a refined interior loaded with premium comfort and technology. During Richard Carr's 27th anniversary sale, find savings like $9,000 off all Sierra 1500 Pro and SLE models in stock. Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Welcome back. Continuing on with our spring game segment that we had, and the last one we have some more to get to. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina here with you on 365 Sports. Smokey and Craig will be here doing the show Monday. This is my last day on the 3 o'clock show, launching a new show on May 1st. So, Craig, we left off with Pittsburgh. Mason Heinschel is the quarterback there. True freshman, wound up in the starting lineup, sent Eli Holstein right to the transfer portal and right to Virginia, where he's in a quarterback battle himself with Bo Pribula. I'm curious to see how Pittsburgh responds this year with a good young quarterback like that. They were sneaky good last year. I think they'll be at least as good as they were, but this is now Mason Heinschel's team going into spring, which means I think he's really going to be able to hit the ground running and establish himself, especially for the new guys, as this is the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. He pushed Eli Holstein out of town, left him running to a opportunity to start. And yeah, Holstein and Pitt, there were some moments there where it was pretty good, maybe okay, but last year was just bad, and so made sense to roll with Heinschel, and it makes sense that he's the guy. I mean, the ACC last year, very strange season. The way we were talking about them one week to the next, as far as competitors, and then the whole Miami Notre Dame argument, and then the way the conference championship went, and then what that led to, and then Miami getting in, and the committee trying to save their bacon, and then Miami getting all the way to the national title game is just weird, at least for the ACC right now, although I know based on history, there's too many months to go before we will hear about how they're going to crumble and everything's going to fall apart or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh's an interesting team, won 8 games last year. Heinschel's a good, solid player and has some good players on offense around him that are coming back, like Kyrie and Turner. So I think for Pitt, it's just building off of Heinschel and seeing where he can take you. But he's a talented young quarterback, and haven't looked at their schedule.
I've got it here.
Okay.
Yeah. Miami, Ohio, UCF, Syracuse, Bucknell, at Virginia Tech. That's their first road game is October 2nd, by the way. Home for North Carolina, at Boston College, at Miami, home for Georgia Tech and Florida State, and then on the road to end the season at Louisville and Cal. So the front end of the schedule, I think, gives them a chance, especially you've got a bunch of new coaches or teams that struggled a little bit last year to hit the ground running. The back half is going to be the tougher half. I mean, you got to go Miami, and I know Georgia Tech doesn't have Hank King anymore, and Aaron Philo and Buster Faulkner went off to Florida. I just have a lot of faith in Brent Key. I have no idea about Florida State. We'll see how that goes. But Louisville, I think, will be just fine. I think Cal's going to be improved with Tosh Lupoy there at the end of the year. Not the point where you want to get a new coach early, not late. In my opinion, because late's when everybody is starting to figure out the buy-in and is kind of totally there and adjusting, especially with JKS at quarterback there. But yeah, I mean, they've got an opportunity to be probably who they were last year, maybe even better.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to win more than 8 games just because 9-win seasons are a little bit hard to come by. But I think given that your basic core is coming back, you did lose some guys to the portal, a very talented linebacker, Rasheem Biles, going to Texas, right? So you mean, But like, again, everybody's lost somebody that's of value. I think nobody's completely untouched, not even the UTs, Ohio States. But beyond that, I think there's a great nerve center to get you excited and have you thinking that 9 wins, 10 wins, playing for an ACC title, that's not out of the question at all. I mean, you finished close to doing that last year, and you did it with a freshman quarterback who can only or who only seems to know that he can get better. I've seen him talk about how last year was a good year, but there is a lot of room for improvement, as there is with all freshmen, no matter how good they start off with. So yeah, if Heinschel keeps improving, then that's great news for Pitt and should lead to a pretty successful season.
Yep. Next up, Purdue. Our friend Barry Odom, who we love having on the show, in his second year there at Purdue. And I'm interested to see. He's really classically been very good in year 2 where he's been. They needed a wholesale restart. The Boilermakers did. Didn't work out under the previous regimes, 2-3 different ones. But I feel good about Barry Odom. I don't know much about where they stand as far as the roster goes and how he feels about it. But what I do know is Barry Odom's usually really good at identifying these are guys that work well within my system and installing them. So I expect them to be improved. But again, they're now in the Big Ten. It's not easy just to all of a sudden be good again.
No, although in the Big Ten, you feel like maybe they could go win a national championship, and not at Purdue, right? Like, no, that's entirely possible now. Would make a great story for the state of Indiana, that's for sure. But for Purdue, big reset on the defensive side of the ball, new defensive coordinator, young quarterback that you feel good about, who's Ryan Brown, who is somebody that needs to continue evolving, but I think for Purdue, they're just a program that feels very sort of lost in the shuffle. But that's the exciting thing, is like I was just kind of cracking about with Indiana, of like, who's to say they can't? I mean, you invest the right way, you get the right players. Who the hell's to say you can't sit there and turn it around? I think Barry Odom's a really good coach. Another year under his belt, and that's a team that's intriguing, but definitely one that you go, oh yeah, there's Purdue too, and maybe that plays into their favor that they're not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth team that you even think about when it comes to the Big Ten. But Ryan Brown and a defensive reset, I think that would be like your Cliff's Notes version of what's going on in Boilermaker land this spring. And Barry Odom's always been great to us. It's been a while since we've had him on. And I'm not trying to give Smokey any ideas, because we say like, oh, that guy was fun to talk to, and next thing you know, he's back on the show. So I'm just saying he's fun to talk to. So nothing but room for improvement, because last year was a very tough year 1.
Yeah, but also this year's schedule, the first 3 games, Indiana State, Wake Forest,
You're going to tell me that
UCLA.
they can't win more than 2 games now?
No, I think they can, but look, they played. This is their last 9 games. Notre Dame, at Illinois, Minnesota, who's always a tough game for everybody, Washington, Penn State, Maryland, Iowa, Wisconsin, and at Indiana to end the year. So finding 6 wins in there is going to be challenging.
Yeah, I think that will definitely be challenging. And I'm trying to think of the Indiana Purdue series history here, and it's pretty heavily Purdue, but Indiana's had the last couple of games. So yeah, that was one where Purdue kind of had the upper hand, and now you look at Indiana on the schedule, instead of like, oh yeah, they'll get together with Indiana, a little rivalry action. Now it's like, oh, Indiana's on the damn schedule.
Yeah.
So that sounds like it's a tough one, and that's life in the Big Ten, and that's the life of living by the draw of whatever the computation spits out as far as your schedule year to year goes. But you better beat Indiana State, because beyond that, it is really questionable whether you beat anybody else. Like in Indiana State, Wake Forest right off the top, at UCLA, and then it's just a grinder, man. Maryland, we'll see on where they are. That'd be another team that you definitely are questionable. I don't know. Washington's just kind of floating around at the moment, but Jed Fish is a good coach. They're just coming down from their peak from a couple of years ago with Penix and all of that.
Yeah.
So it just feels like they're probably flatter than they actually are. But yeah, there's a lot of potential losses on this schedule and not a lot of games where you go, oh, yeah, they can win that one. There's like 3 of those.
They have 2 huge coaching wild cards late in the season for them, and that would be Maryland and Wisconsin. Both of those schools very publicly said, oh, we're going to spend more money in NIL. We were trying to go Dollar General on this thing, thinking that nobody would notice. But quarterback-wise, both those teams, Malik Washington at Maryland and then Colton Joseph, who came over from Old Dominion to Wisconsin, by that time of the year, kind of like Baylor, we're going to know, did it go well or not?
Yeah, I mean, if Ryan Brown's improved and that defense is a lot better, then that should be another couple of wins. If Ryan Brown's just kind of a middle-of-the-road guy who's still turning it over more than he's putting it in the end zone, or the defense is not up to standard, then, yeah, it could be a really long haul for the Boilermakers. What is their win total for next year, I wonder, actually? Let me look at it real quick.
I bet it'd be 3.5.
It's depends on where you look, 3.5 or 4. Yeah. So, yeah, that seems about right.
Okay, moving on to Stanford. New coach Tavita Pritchard steps in there. I think Stanford's going to probably struggle a lot in year 1. Davis Warren in the quarterback battle. This would be great for Tavita Pritchard if Bo Bachmeier was still there. Or Bear Bachmeier. I don't know why I said Bo, but Bear Bachmeier was there. But I do think this is Andrew Luck's raising it to the ground and building it back up with his coach, his guy. Frank Reich was just a temporary coach. He wasn't going to come out of retirement for more than a year because of the way that happened. But Tavita Pritchard was Andrew Luck's backup at Stanford when he played there. They are very close. They're building this program together. But given the fact that you've got Stanford used to be able to go get an Andrew Luck, and that was a better opportunity than a lot of places. And Stanford can afford anybody they want. But if I'm going to get $3 million to go play quarterback at a school that's not quite as hard, and that doesn't matter to me, then that's complicated Stanford's life even further.
Do you think Stanford's who Will Muschamp was yelling at when he was talking about how some players don't go to school anymore? Remember that yesterday? He's like, in Texas, they still go to class. He wasn't talking about Stanford,
no,
I don't think.
So.
No, I don't think he was. But yeah, it's been a long, tough road to hoe for the Cardinal. Andrew Luck makes him interesting. Without him, I shudder at the thought of what anybody would have said about Stanford for the last 4 or 5 years. It's been down, and then the dissolution of the Pac on top of that, and moving to the ACC and everything. So we're looking at a stretch of going on nearly 10 years, folks. We're in 2026 now, so it's not quite, but close to a decade since Stanford has played in a bowl game. Just played in a bowl game. It's been nearly 10 years. Yeah, that's got to change, obviously. Troy Taylor was a mess, that whole situation. And so we'll see if Tavita Pritchard can get it back on track. Frank Reich did the best he could for what felt like all along of just this is just a hold it together year. Yeah. And then we'll before it even started, you just knew interim coach, the real coach is not being hired until after the season. And so that was exciting and something you could look forward to. But as far as the product on the field, there wasn't much to look forward to. So yeah, Davis Webb, one of the guys in the quarterback competition. I don't know really what to think about Pritchard as far as the hire goes. I've seen split opinions on that. If you trust in Andrew Luck, then they got a pretty good guy. I mean, I know he was with the Commanders, and that's my favorite NFL team, but we don't really pay too close to position coaches and whatnot at the NFL level all the time, or at least I don't in regards to him specifically. So, yeah, excited to see what he can do, and a guy who is a Stanford man. So that's also part of the excitement is somebody that knows the brand, has played for the brand, and can bring some of that pride to Palo Alto, and they desperately need a little injection of that right now.
Yeah, you only notice the position coaches, and this is true in college too, when a position is really good or really bad.
Right.
If it's doing its job, they can be like Craig Smoke, a running back coach, Oklahoma, and they'd be like, is that who the running back coach is?
Well, right now they'd be pissed at me because they haven't been happy with the running backs of late. But no, I mean, with Pritchard, he got overshadowed by Kingsbury more than anything. He got overshadowed by his star quarterback in Jaden Daniels for a couple years, and he got overshadowed by the star OC and Cliff Kingsbury. But, mixed results there as far as that goes. I mean, he couldn't keep Jaden Daniels healthy all the time. But, yeah, I think that have that little NFL experience, but a lot of the Stanford experience definitely makes him a guy that made sense for them to hire. But no idea how it works out. Just know that they desperately need some excitement there because it's been a slog of like 7 years in a row now where it's 3 wins, 4 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins. And yeah, nobody loves that.
Okay, so Syracuse now, Steve Angeli, they were actually going along pretty well until Steve Angeli tore his ACL last year. I really like Fran Brown. I'm very curious to see what he can do there. They've changed over some coaches. Elijah Robinson's no longer there. They have new defensive coordinator. I believe they have a new offensive coordinator. Schedule is about what you'd expect. I mean, it's not one thing or the other. They do close the season out with Notre Dame, which is not ideal, considering I think Notre Dame with unless they trip over their shoelaces is going to be a playoff team. They are stacked and loaded this year.
Just put that on repeat every year. Just say that for Notre Dame.
Well, I mean, they rigged the system to where don't trip over your shoelaces and you're a playoff team.
Yeah.
And last year, I guess they tripped over their shoelaces the first 2 games.
They did, and then they took their shoelaces and went home. Yeah.
and then the ACC campaigned against their partner, which happens. But yeah, Syracuse is interesting to me, Craig, in that I'm just a big fan of Fran Brown. I'm very curious to see what he's able to do there and how long he is there, and how much Syracuse gives them time to figure that out, because it's been a couple years now for him. But if Steve Angeli's back, then I think that they're going to start off on the right foot if he's healthy, because he was playing well for them before he got hurt last year.
Yeah, he was. The Fran Brown thing, I don't know, man. I'm interested. I feel like he's a guy that when things are going well, like they were a couple of years ago, he's a great head coach to have. And when things are going wrong, it gets like really ugly. And like your outspokenness can now suddenly be a negative. Whereas when you're winning, it's like, oh, he's talking that S and that kind of thing. And then it's like, oh, he's talking that S. Like, shut up, dude. So yeah, it was a very much a come back down to earth type of year last year for them. You go from double-digit wins to winning 3 football games the entire season. That was a harsh reality check for them. But Angeli's a guy that we've talked about and seen a bit of, not quite a bit at this point, and haven't done a deep dive on Syracuse. But I think Fran Brown is a really intriguing. I really do love his idea with Dion. I do love that they're still kind of pushing that. They're not letting that go. That every year they're like, let's ask again. Nope. Okay. Next year, let's ask again. Nope. Okay. Now it's taken to where Fran Brown's like speculating and conspiracy theorizing that like they just don't want him and Dion to be the first coaches to get the pass to do this. Like, I don't know if he thinks it's a racial thing or if it's like East Coast. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning behind that would be necessarily, other than what I mentioned at the beginning. I would sure hope that's not the case, but I do like that they are pushing forward and are not going to seemingly let that go. But yeah, he's a real he's a guy who was an odd fit in Waco. That's for sure. Like I remember talking to him one night at this little get together, and he's just very East Coast, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And that was a weird fit. Matt Rule's staff in Waco, but man, people loved him. He was a great coach. And then he went on to have an incredibly successful run as an assistant for a long time there at Georgia under Kirby Smart. That first year was excellent. So let's see what year 3 holds, because it is now becoming one of those things where it's like, all right, 10 wins and 3 wins. What the hell does that mean? Does that mean like this year's 7, or does that mean we're going back one or the other direction? Because if we go this direction, cool, man. Syracuse has their head coach for the next 5 years. If we go that other direction, well, we might have to start having some conversations about the long-term future of the Orange football program.
Yep. And finally, Tennessee, which this comes down to one question for me. What's quarterback? What's that look like? Who's the quarterback? What's the quarterback? What's your depth like there? They look at the very short end of the stick in the Nico Iamaleava transfer. That was true. They did luck out that Joey Aguilar, whose job Nico took when he left, was available. Joey Aguilar lost his eligibility appeal, as has actually been happening a little bit more for the NCAA in the last couple of weeks, mostly because the ones who have applied, their none of their cases apply to the ones that have already been ruled on, like Diego Pavia. So we'll talk about that actually a little bit later. But I think that is the big question. After that, like everything else will fall into place. But if they don't have that quarterback answer, that's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, they've got some good players coming back, but the quarterback spot certainly is. I mean, that's anytime that's uncertain, that's going to be your top storyline, right? But there's also Jim Knowles now there at Tennessee. He's bounced around some pretty big programs here of late, and I think that's an interesting move to make for the Volunteers. So have my eye on just Jim Knowles, and if he can continue to replicate the success that he's had multiple stops now. But you are looking at just complete uncertainty as far as the quarterback position goes, between a guy who's only been around for a couple years in George McIntyre, and then who doesn't love rooting on 5-stars. That's always fun, especially the quarterback position. So you've got Faison Brandon, part of that as well. And they did get screwed last year by the Joey Aguilar, or not the Joey Aguilar, the 2 years ago by the Nico Iamaleava situation, and they pivoted well. Aguilar served them well. Not the greatest year in the world, but given the circumstances, much like with BYU, could have ended up a lot worse than it turned out. But now you don't have to deal with that, knock on wood, because it's only April 10th. But yeah, I'm excited to see Brandon. Anytime you get these 5-star, like young quarterback types, one of them's going to eventually be like the next like man that we talk about and is in the Heisman Trophy race and things like that. So we've done that with Bryce Underwood, right? Here of late, Arch Manning, obviously, as well, among others. So yeah, excited to see Faison Brandon, but him and George McIntyre, the two in the running for that. And then, beyond that, I'll defer to the Volunteer fans who are able to break down like the battle at the offensive guard spot or whatever. I haven't gotten that deep with the Vols, but too long didn't read Cliff's notes. New defensive coordinator, quarterback battle, and hopefully no out of nowhere transfers for the Volunteers this year.
Yeah, I mean but that'll set you back, and all that, especially in the transfer portal era. Like you do, I was surprised that they weren't. I don't know how aggressive they were. And, Josh Heupel might feel good about who he has on the roster, but there were some guys out there that I thought like, oh, well, Tennessee, I mean, they spent big money before. They'll go get this guy, but maybe they're gun shy now, or maybe they're just like, look, let's just wait this out. Let's see what we got, and then reassess in a year. Jim, to bring in Jim Knowles, the defense is only getting up 17 points a game, although usually it's year 2 for Jim Knowles where it really takes hold.
Yeah, because it is a changeover from what they're doing. Like it's not like, oh, just plug and play and everything's the same. There is a little bit of an adjustment.
It's also the Bryles offense with a legit, like crazy complicated defense, which is, I don't think ever really been attempted before.
I mean, there's been so many different versions of the Bryles offense that is spread out now because of Kendall Bryles alone's been at like 10 different schools. Not really. He's been at 3 or 4 since in the last 10 years. And then Levy was around for a while, and there's been other guys that have spread out. But and then defensively, bringing on Chaz Coleman, a big pickup for them. But other than that, like kind of a like you said, a sort of TBD on the transfer portal class. Like you got a big name, but beyond that, no, they aren't one of those that is like who pulled in the top transfer portal classes. So I don't know what that means, if anything. I mean, some of these situations it's by design, and then some of them it's like just, well, this year there's not quite the oomph that there is in other years, or the push forward to like really go all in and all out. I don't know what the strategy was for Josh Heupel and company this year, but they really handled that wild card of the quarterback switcheroo well, all things considered, because that could have been just completely deflating. And just a bummer that for them, at least, that Aguilar couldn't get that extra year. But he's now instead a sample case for all of the other quarterbacks and players who want to try to get that extra year. He's an example of what not to do as far as trying to fight for that extra year of eligibility. So if that's his legacy, I guess, moving forward, then there's going to be a lot of guys thanking him for showing them how to properly file a lawsuit to get that extra year of eligibility.
All right. When we come back, David Nuno, TexAgs.com. I talked to David earlier today about A&M coming out of spring, Marcel Reed, the offensive line, and a little baseball thrown in for the college baseball folks right there at the end. This is 365 Sports.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Sports, Paul Catalina and David Nuno, TexAgs.com, a guy I did radio shows with, I'm going to say 20 years ago now. David, is it 20 years that we've known each other?
It is 20 years, my friend. Back in the day when I was at KXXV. That's right.
Yes. David has done a lot of amazing things in his career. Houston, done a lot of national stuff. Now back for the last few years with his beloved Texas Aggies, covering them at TexAgs.com. David, I, as you know, grew up in an Aggie household, so I am very familiar with the emotions of an Aggie football season. I can tell you honestly, last year was unique in a way that I don't know if I felt in a very, very, very long time, in that there's not hope of if this gets done. I think there's an actual thought of like, oh, this could be a win if we don't, and I say we as the collective Aggie fan base, if nobody messes this up from the outside. That's the thing. If nobody from the outside messes with Mike Elko, I really feel like they have a chance to not only be on the scene for 1 or 2 years, but be on the scene for a decade or so.
I agree 100% with you. And here's the thing. This year is so important to that. If they take a step back, it's not going to be the end of the world because, they should take a step back. They were 11-2 last year. You got a brand new offensive line. You got I think, at least as of today, a much more difficult schedule. But if they are able to fill those holes and those gaps, right? And it isn't a step back, then you have 2 back-to-back years of hopefully elite playoff or playoff close seasons and 3 straight years, hopefully, of knocking on the door of the SEC championship game. And that's the thing that we haven't seen in forever since the Big 12 days, early Big 12 days, by the way, not late Big 12 days, of a team that could put it together for multiple years. What we have seen since then is a great 2012, a couple of years, right? 2013 was fun for a little bit, but it really wasn't. That defense was atrocious. You have 2020, which was incredible. They got robbed of the playoffs, in my opinion. And then you have the next couple of years, which were terrible. Quarterbacks get hurt, 5-7, lose to Appalachian State, change your head coach. Mike Elko comes in, knock on the door of the SEC championship game, a team that really overexceeded everybody's expectations. You could probably say the same thing about last year's team because I don't think anybody had them at 11-2, not anybody that I work with at least, right? Unfortunately, it was a horrible fall from the top late in the season. The schedule caught up with you. I think just really good defenses caught up with you, and just you're the worst part of the football season. But I think it takes multiple years of being a team that is in the playoffs, knocking on the playoffs, to kind of shake the old Aggie monitor of a team not being able to finish.
Yeah, and you have to do it, and it was last year. Right at the end was when it happened. The Texas game, Marcel Reed played his 2 worst games of the season back to back, Texas and Miami. And look, that's going to happen. What do you think has happened with him in the interim between then and now that he can overcome those things? Because here's the thing about Texas. They're not waiting on anybody. And 2, that game is always going to be right where it is. So it's not like you can it's not going to move to the middle of the year where you have time to get over it if it doesn't go right. Like that's something you have to kind of always deal with.
Let's examine that for a second. So no doubt about it, Marcel was not good enough at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. Let's also go a little bit deeper than that. You took on the last 2 SEC games and the last game against Miami against top 10 first round, second round defensive ends that just pulverize people, right? Colin Simmons, Ruben Bain, right? Mesidor. Like there's so many dudes that they went against were elite. That's not a coping mechanism. I'm just saying those guys are dudes, and they played elite ball against A&M, even South Carolina, right? Dylan Stewart, elite. I know the Aggies won that game, but there were some issues. The other thing you didn't see in that game, guys, is a very good running game, right? Le'Veon Moss was not healthy. I know he played a little bit, but it wasn't Le'Veon Moss against Miami, right? Ruben Owens was not very good in those games. The offensive line, which was so elite for most of the year, was not very good at the end of the season. Now you'll say, well, that's because of the schedule. Really? Because I think Notre Dame had an elite defense. I think, and Marcel was fine. Marcel played really good early football. Mm-hmm. I think when the running game became a problem, and Marcel, some of the mistakes he got away with earlier caught up with him. It's really the opportunity. The turnovers came at the worst possible time. You can't have turnovers in the red zone. You can't have turnovers, much less in the red zone. And, like the game against Miami. I'm not trying to cope. I'm just being honest. Like, he did not play well. The wind didn't help him. The wind didn't help Carson Beck either, right? The difference in that game was a great run.
Yeah. It was that game. Like, I don't think had Miami lost that game, their fans shouldn't have been mad at them. I don't think A&M fans should be mad at them. It was, sometimes games are so far outside the norm of how games go. You just have to be like, well, that happened. Like it's not an indictment on anything. I think the biggest thing, like that Texas game, was the one that people are gonna, at least Marcel, I would think, would kind of like ruminate on for a while and go, okay, this is where I have to get better. This was what exposed some of the things I got away from. Now, A&M's had a a very bizarre history of quarterbacks that they are good right away and then somehow fade. Like there's very few that kind of stand out from that crowd. Like Bucky Richardson, Ryan Tannehill, guys like that were good all the way through. Then they had guys like Corey Pullig or, whatever that were good early and then fade at the end. Just that was kind of their thing. Everybody loved the backup in College Station. He's not that. He's gotten better from the LSU game where he came in and took the starting job to last year. So I think his trajectory is so much different. Now comes the question of, can the coaching, you replace a guy like Colin Klein, who's really good at coaching quarterbacks like Marcel Reed?
Yeah, look, Marcel has to be better this year than he was last year. And people say that, he wasn't a Heisman contender last year. Not really, not when the schedule got tough. Marcel was an absolute Heisman contender until the Texas game, right? If they win that game, I think he's invited to New York. That's my opinion. And I wasn't the only one national guys thought that. But he didn't. And then he didn't play great against Miami. So it's a different story. He comes into this season, I think ESPN had him as maybe the 16th best quarterback in college football. That's fine. I have no problem with that. Because here's the thing with Marcel. Can he elevate his floor? Marcel at his best is an elite quarterback. An elite quarterback moves the ball different ways, right? He can run. He's slippery. He deception. He can throw a deep ball to ABR, Ashton Bethel-Roman, and catch a touchdown pass against South Carolina that starts a comeback. We've seen the highs of Marcel. Marcel, very high, is an elite quarterback. Marcel's lows, though, have got to be higher. Unfortunately, the last game he played against Texas in 24 was not good. The last game he played against Texas and Miami in 25 wasn't good. So can we get the better version of Marcel and lift that floor all season long? Even in the LSU game this past year, where he dominated them, but he struggled for the second quarter, right? They had the interceptions. They didn't look good. And he ran them out the freaking stadium by the second half. So you don't need elite Marcel all the time. You just can't have super bad Marcel. And I'm excited about seeing what Holman Wiggins can do. Players love him. He's got a swagger to him, an energy to him. And I love Colin Klein. I didn't always agree with the play calling. So it'll be interesting to see a different play caller. But again, and I'm sure you're going to ask me about it here in a second. The success of the 2026 season is going to come down to that offensive line. Mm-hmm. And they got some dudes on that offensive line that I'd be excited about. But like Texas last year, which did it with a lot of younger guys, it takes a while for an offensive line to gel. You just hope it doesn't gel too late. For Texas, they got it going, unfortunately, at the end of the year, right? But it takes a while. LSU, and a bunch of transfer, it didn't really work. Mm-hmm. So can this offensive line gel earlier than we saw before and than we've seen in other places? Because if not, if the offensive line is semi-good with that schedule, at least the way it feels right now, they're going to be an 8-4 team. If that offensive line can reach some of the levels that they reached last year in the middle of the season, this team can be a 10-2 team. I think 11-1 is going to be very difficult with going to the road to Alabama, going on the road to South Carolina. I know they're not a great team, but it's a hard place to play for A&M. And you mentioned the Texas loss earlier, Paul. I'm kind of jumping around because I'm thinking of things as we speak. It is hard to win on the road in the SEC.
Yeah.
Like going to South Carolina is hard. Going to Mississippi State is hard. Like Texas, credit to them for going to Mississippi State and Kentucky and winning. How close were they? They were a second away from losing both of those games, right? So, and how different do we look at their trajectory, even if they beat Texas at the end, Texas A&M at the end? So I say all that to the SEC may not be winning championships right now in football the last 3 years, but it is still the deepest conference where the bad teams can beat you on any given weekend.
Yeah. College football now across the board is Texas was a hair's breadth away from being 11-1 or 7-5. Honestly, like they were a hair's breadth away from that. And that's how everybody lives now. Everybody lives. You get a team like Indiana, there's one team that just seems to kind of have that momentum. But Miami was this close to not even being in the playoff because of, a lot of different things. But they had moments in their season that could have made them an 8-4 team really easily because you cannot run away and hide from anybody anymore. The talent is more even across the board. You mentioned the offensive line. There are not guys, and he's going to be like a mid-round NFL draft pick in Trey Zune, but like he played all 5 positions on the offensive line depending on what they needed to do. They went 8 deep, and when guys got hurt, they didn't miss a beat. Now, you don't lose all 8 of those guys, but you can't do that. You can't just replicate that again, like you said. But they do seem to have the infrastructure where that can be good faster. So if it can be good by game 4, then I think they're all right. You know, if you can keep your head above water and gel by then, as opposed to like Texas did, they waited until that A&M game to have a running game. And you know, that was to their detriment all year long. But if A&M can get it early in the season, I think they'll be all right along there. And I think the defense returns enough guys where, plus they're run by Mike Elko. So I think that like he has been very good at, okay, well, maybe my team isn't as good at, you know, defensive tackle this year. Well, we're going to accentuate different ways. That's just how his brain works.
Well, and I'll say this about the offensive line. I don't know if they're going to be any good. They got some guys with SEC experience, and I think that goes a long way. Wilkin Formby played at Alabama. Cohen Eccles played at LSU. Tyree Adams played at LSU. They got a young man who played at South Carolina. So they've got guys that have played there, and they have young guys that they've been developing. Like Mike Elko has recruited, and Jimbo did too, recruited at a high level. So can you recruit at a high level and also develop these players? And some of these young players need to develop, and their time might be right away. It might be a little bit later in the season. So I don't think it's going to be as bad as, you know, when 2020 to 2021 happened. A&M had some players, you know, Fathery started that year. Who else was there? There was a couple of Kenyon Green played that year. There was only one or two returners on that line, and you worry that it wouldn't be good, and it ended up not being good. They eventually became good, but they weren't very good. You worry about that. But again, you got some guys in today's transfer portal era that have some SEC experience.
Yeah, I know you got a thing at 120 coming up. So I just want to ask you real quick baseball question. They went all out to retain guys last year, but it felt to me in the early part of the season they were playing for spite. And that was kind of the emotion about Jim Schlossnagle leaving and all that. Watching them now, I don't feel that that's the case. I think that they are –
early this season or early last year?
Last season. They were playing for spite. They last season, they went all out. They made sure they kept everybody. They did all that. But it felt like they were like, we're doing this for spite. We feel that we were kind of, you know, strung along here by Coach Schlossnagle. We're mad about it. And that's not fair to, like, you know, what is the term? Like, you do something revenge, you got to dig 2 graves or whatever it is. I think that was their season this year. This year, they seem like they are playing in spite, like, for themselves and not everybody else.
I'm going to disagree with you because I didn't get that sense last year. This is the sense I got. I got a sense of a couple of things that happened. You had your 2 best players hurt all year long.
Yeah.
Sorry. you lose Caden Sorrell for most of the year and Gavin Grahovic for all the year. Your offense isn't going to be as good. You have a bunch of guys with no experience, from Terrence Keel, like all these guys playing. It's going to take a moment. Your pitching staff takes a significant step back last year. Ryan Prager wasn't as good last year as we had seen the years prior. How much of that was, you know, I don't know, right? So all those things. You had a rookie manager, head coach who had never coached before. You know, it's kind of like what we're seeing at Tennessee this year. So I think last year was a combination of a head coach trying to figure out how to be a head coach, pitching not being as good. And I'm sorry, when you lose 2, I'm going to say it again, 2 first-round picks in your starting lineup, in your starting 9, you're not going to be as good. I'm sorry. You're not as good without Caden Sorrell for 75% of the season or 60% of the season and Gavin Grahovic for 98% of the season as you were without them. And also you have to replace, you know, Jace Laviolette and Hayden Schott. And, you know, so like there's all these names, or excuse me, last year would have been Braden Montgomery. All these names that you're having to replace, you're just not going to be as good. And a manager or a head coach who's just trying to figure out how to be a head coach. So I think that was last year. And unfortunately, they started off 1-9, and they were horrible last year in the SEC play in the beginning. And then they got hot. But they ran into the worst team in the league and got swept, and that's where the season was lost, right? So, look, I don't know what's going to happen this weekend with Texas. This team's only got 7 players that played for Schloss that are on this roster, and one of those guys, Josh Stewart, isn't even playing, right? So this team is better than they were last year. Michael Early is better than he was last year. The question with this team is going to be pitching. And Shane Sadeo has been good or bad. Sometimes in the exact same game, strikes out 10, gives up 9 runs, right? Like that, we've had that. But we've also had a really good Shane Sadeo. This team is going to go as far as their starting pitching because offensively, they're top 3 in the country in many categories, right? They can mash, but against this Texas pitching staff, that pitching staff is the best you're going to face. They are elite. They are, especially their starting rotation. So can Shane Sadeo and Aiden Sims, and we'll figure out Sunday when we get to Sunday, but can those guys give you length and give you enough where these offensive bats can eventually take hold? That Texas pitch, and look, it's not popular, but Jim Schlossnagle is an excellent head coach. I enjoyed my time working with him for the couple seasons that I did. He was very kind to me, 3 seasons. He was great. What he did, I will never forgive as a A&M alum, and the timing of it, everything. But the guy is elite. Mm-hmm. I said when he took the job at Texas, he's going to win a national championship at A&M or Texas or somewhere. The guy is that good. So can you be better than them this weekend? Because they are worthy of that number 2 position. They are a very good team with a lot of talent, with amazing pitching. This team, though, this A&M team, who was, I thought, kind of all over the place last year, is a better team than they were last year for obvious reasons, but I think mentally better. And they were in that series. They got swept, but they were these were 1-run games. It's going to be a hostile environment tonight. I don't know if A&M's got the pitching to win this series, but if they get pretty good pitching, they're going to have a chance.
Absolutely. David Nuno, TexAgs.com. Look, when you're not watching us, watch them, especially if you're an Aggie fan. There's nobody who does it better than TexAgs.com. Nuno, love you, buddy.
Love you, bro. Thanks so much. Let's do it again, all right?
This is 365 Sports.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Declaration of Deals is at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. And America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels in Waco.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Welcome back, and thanks to David Nuno for hopping on with me today. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoke here with you in the home stretch of the show before we get to the top 5 and the trivia and the polls and, of course, the wheel. Craig, we've talked a lot about the 5 for 5 and the NCAA's eligibility rules and that what they're trying to change. Ross Dellinger put these 2 tweets out. The NCAA won an appeal. This is a couple days ago on Wednesday. The Ninth Circuit vacated a district court's ruling that granted Nevada baseball player Noah Bly the 6th year of eligibility. He had argued his JUCO seasons should not count against NCAA eligibility standards. He was competing this season until the waiver was revoked. So the NCAA, moving on to this next one so far in eligibility legal battles, 74 cases filed, 34 injunction wins, not including 14 voluntarily dismissed, 12 athlete injunction wins, and 14 still pending in lower courts. So most of the time they actually do win these things, Craig. However, a lot of them are because this is their last resort to try to get it back, like a TJ Finley or someone like that. And their case does not apply the same way that Trinidad Chambliss or Diego Pavia or some of these others have.
I guess this would be more the Pavia route. I didn't. What's this dude's name?
His name, I have already closed it.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I didn't follow this case at all. So
Noah Blythe. Sorry,
Noah Blythe. Yeah, I haven't followed this one like I have followed some of the other ones. So I just want to make sure I'm talking about the right thing here. And I guess this would be sort of in line with a few of the others that have been followed, trying to not have JUCO years count. Joey Aguilar was in that to some degree. Pavia obviously was the door opener for that, and trying to think. I think there's been some others as well. So I mean, on just a fan basis, I'm glad. I mean, I think if you suddenly say, no, JUCO years just don't count, like, well, what's the point? I mean, wouldn't it be smart then to just go JUCO for a couple years and then like almost work the system that way for guys who aren't just surefire signing a $15 million deal like Jeremiah Smith right out of high school, or I know it wasn't quite that right out of high school. It's that now, allegedly. But that there's been cases and decisions sort of all over the place. But when you break it all down right now, the NCAA's got a winning record in these types of cases this offseason. We'll all point to Trinidad Chambliss and say, well, they lost that one. They did. He had a favorable judge who got emotional reading the verdict, so that should tell you all you need to know. How often do you see a judge get emotional, much less over a football player trying to get another year of eligibility? Not a murder case, not a lost the family in a house fire, not like any crazy thing. Like, just want to play more football, and he's getting emotional over this. So that, I think that might have been the outlier.
You think it's it's real to me too, damn it, guys, like relative?
I actually saw that guy in person. He apparently is probably made pretty okay money going around doing the autograph signing circuit. He was at some random independent wrestling event. I guess it would have been like 5 or 6 years ago that I went to. We were in Atlanta for the Super Bowl, and I remember going, and I wanted to go because for the wrestling fans, that's right when AEW was about to start. And so you had like Penta, who's now in WWE, and Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and all these dudes. It was like one of their last independent shows. So the timing worked out really well. But yeah, it's that guy was there. He was in the corner and he had a little booth and he was taking pictures and signing autographs. And I bet he'd probably done that like every weekend for years. But I mean, on this case, another win for the NCAA as he is dropping his case. And I know Owen Heineke's coming up here in the next few days, so I'm really interested to see what that one is, and I'll have a full breakdown on that when the time comes for him to go to court there in Cleveland, or in Norman, Cleveland County, Oklahoma. But I mean, I don't have a lot of thoughts on this one because I hadn't followed this one super close, other than I have thought all along that JUCO years should count. I've been pretty firm in that.
Now, this is on the heels of the NCAA proposing a radical change to their eligibility rules that are mostly based on age. So it's 5 years from your enrollment or 19th birthday, whatever comes first. So they're like, the oldest you could be in college athletics would be 24 years old, unless you have there's special medical, military service, or one other thing that I think maternity leave for female athletes. But again, that's going to, get into the antitrust thing. Like, if it's 5 years, if you're 24 and you've aged out, I'm fine with that. Great. Good. All these are very practical in idea. Execution's the hard part. Mm-hmm. It's execution and making sure it's legal, which that's where, look, in eligibility cases, the NCAA, a lot of these cases, it's just guys like, okay, this is all I have that I can do to do this, and they may not have as much of a legal leg to stand on, but you might as well file and see if you do. I mean, you really have nothing to lose other than, like, because you're not eligible now. If you lose, you're still not eligible. So.
Yeah, I mean, you lose money out of your pocket if you don't win it. Chandler Morris lost some money fighting this thing, only to turn around and not have Virginia paying him more money this year, and now no guarantee of what the NFL looks like. Whereas with Trinidad Chambliss, I'm sure his legal bills are already all paid off with a fancy NIL deal that brought him back. And like I said, I hadn't watched Noah Blythe's case in particular because it was baseball, but it wasn't JUCO ball. He plays NAIA, so okay. There is a clarification there. But I mean, that even more so makes me say, well, no, you were playing college baseball. Like, you're playing college baseball. Now, he did have a couple of things along the way. So Hawaii Pacific 2021, partial season due to COVID-19. 2022 full season, 2023 partial season, broken hand, 2024 season. The school he was at, Antelope Valley, shut down in the middle of the year. And then he played last year at Hawaii Pacific, and then I guess he was playing up until this point for his current team. So yeah, that's tough, man. Because when you look at that, it's like, dude, that's so out of your control. But yeah, you can't really do case by case basis. You kind of do have to do the blanket thing. So I do, like, there is part of me, man. I am a human being, and I'm not like team NCAA by any means. I'm just like team sanity. I don't want to see 7th, 8th year guys out there playing against true freshmen. I just have no desire to see that. I have no desire to see Diego Pavia be the quarterback for Vanderbilt for the next 10 years. I want to see the next guy after him. And then again, there's the human side of, like, this Noah Blythe kid sounds like he's been dealt a really raw deal with injuries and school shutting down on him. So yeah, that sucks. But it's another win for the NCAA, and they've been stacking them. That Heineke one, I'm very interested to see coming up here in the next few days, because it is, as somebody pointed out, like, this home court thing, it's not like you just get to choose your home court. I mean, you got to file them where it makes sense. So, like, Trinidad Chambliss, where else was he going to go to file it than where he was there in Oxford? But still, to get a super favorable crying judge who's also Ole Miss law certainly didn't help. Heineke will have a lot of Oklahoma flavor on his own counsel. The judge, I believe, is an OU law guy. It's in Norman. Now, his argument is, I started off playing lacrosse. I wanted to walk on at Ohio State, play football. COVID happened. Tryouts got canceled. I transferred to Oklahoma. I walked on to football, and then I played that up until this year. So, like, my lacrosse year shouldn't count, is basically what he's saying. And I'm curious to see how they rule that, because they've already ruled, like, no, it does. It counts against your eligibility. It doesn't matter that it was a different sport. Like, it counts. And he's trying to say, well, it shouldn't. And so we'll see what the courts have to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very curious on that one. UCF AD Terry Mahajer says an offer on a contract extension has been made to baseball coach Johnny Dawkins. Waiting to hear back from the agent. Deals for multiple years. Basketball coach Johnny Dawkins. He did a great job this year. Tournament team. I really love what Johnny Dawkins is doing down there in Orlando. I think this is probably a matter of time, Craig, before that gets signed.
I mean, it sure seems so. I would not want to have that out there if that wasn't the case. I mean, so that would be pretty stupid to put out this information if you're not intending on following up. So, yeah, this is writing on the wall, and I know there was a bit of a mixed opinion on Johnny Dawkins getting that contract. There's a good segment of UCF fans, and I'm not talking about just a random person you see on, but, like, I dig a little deeper, and I'm like, okay, there's a handful of people that are all saying this, and they're not just an echo chamber. So there's more than just a couple opinions out there. There were some that were, like, a little hesitant to see that. It felt like it was kind of going overboard, but that's what these colleges do. Like, have a successful year, boom, lifetime contract with $20 million buyout. Now, his won't be crazy like that, but I mean, good for Johnny Dawkins. If you're a believer, this is great news. And if you're a doubter, then you're one of those handful of fans I was talking about, but they had a really nice season. And that's been one of the, I mean, baseball's rolling right now, but basketball and UCF, I mean, that's one of the better stories they've had since they've joined the Big 12, if you think about it. I mean, there's been, I'm sure, some other sports that don't get as much of attention, but football, it's been all about coaching changes pretty much at this point, going from Malzahn to Frost. And good to see basketball kind of provide something and give them some substance and some success to chew on there. So he's being rewarded for that.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of former Scott Drew assistants, one who's been gone for quite a long time and one that was only gone for a couple years. Alvin Brooks and Matt Driscoll are both headed to NC State to join Justin Gainey's staff. My opinion, great hires. Alvin Brooks has been at Kentucky the last couple years with Mark Pope after being with Scott Drew at Baylor for a long time. And Matt Driscoll, one of Scott Drew's original assistants when he took the job here at Baylor before taking the head coaching job at North Florida. Then he was with Jerome Tang this last year at Kansas State, was the interim coach after Tang was fired. Now moves on to NC State legend Justin Gainey, who got that job. They love Justin Gainey there. This is akin to like Jeff Brom getting the Louisville job at NC State because he is beloved there, and he's got a couple really good. Alvin Brooks is an excellent recruiter, and Matt Driscoll is an excellent basketball guy. I mean, X's and O's, he is excellent. You judging by their bodies of work, you can feel about how you want, but a little personally biased because I've known them both for a really long time, but I think that's a really good first couple of assistants for Justin Gainey.
Happy for NC State fans to have some things to root for and some normalcy after the whole Will Wade debacle. And sounds like they've got a guy who's not going to leave them as abruptly as Will Wade seemingly left them, but a guy who is NC State through and through, also following up on the Will Wade abrupt departure. Is, I think, the smart move to make there and to rally people. And, yeah, there's a couple of really solid hires. I mean, those guys did a great job for Scott Drew. And I think I was like trying to think, is there some connection there? Like, did he serve under Scott Drew, Justin Gainey at some point in time? Like, just kind of random to hire those two together and coming from different places as well. But, yeah, I'd vouch for them as well. I think those are two excellent hires for Justin Gainey.
Yeah, I think it's a great start to the staff. Okay, finally wrapping up our Big 12 Dane Brugler's The Beast first 3 rounds draft coverage. And it's been a good few rounds for the Big 12, several players in each round. Here we go to the third round, number 70 to the Browns. He's got Keith Abney, the second, going from Arizona State. Tradan Stokes right after that. From Arizona going to the Commanders. Romello Height, which at pick 84 is a really solid spot for him, going to the Packers. Romello Height from Texas Tech. And Keyshawn Elliott, linebacker, ASU, going to the Jags. All defense. And the Big 12, I think if you look through, I mean, there's offensive players here and there, but it is one of the better defensive conferences the last couple of years. I think the predictions, the mock drafts kind of reflect where the talent's more on the defensive side of the ball than maybe the offensive side of the ball right now.
I think it helps when Tech goes and gets like a handful of draft picks through the portal, and you add that to the mix, and then Dillingham and obviously Brent Brennan are doing a great job developing as well. Traden Stukes, one of those guys, the Arizona secondary is turning over this offseason, and that makes me a little bit leery about them just replicating what they did a year ago, although with Fafita as like the point man, you feel pretty great that you've got maybe the best quarterback in the Big 12. We'll see. But defensively, they've got some questions answered because they had a really good secondary, and Stukes was part of the reason why, and they're basically flipping all that. But, yeah, good player. Keith Abney we talked about yesterday with the draft conversation. I mean, he could be a guy. There's a lineup of all sorts of cornerbacks that could go borderline first round. And he's one of those. He was in the first round mock draft that I was talking about yesterday. So maybe a first rounder, maybe also dropping all the way to round 3. But Keith Abney will get scooped up before the end of Saturday. So that's good for him. And or I guess before the end of Friday, actually. Yeah, before the end of Friday, right? Because it's first round, second, third round on Friday. Yeah, so he'll be off the board before Saturday, you would think, for sure. Romello Height was a tremendous pickup for Tech, and so excited to see what their total is of all the early round guys they're able to put in the draft this year. It should be a hell of a number for them, and a historic number at that. And ASU just churning the guys out under Kenny Dillingham, doing a great job.
Yeah, they really are, because Maxine Achor, Keith Abney, Keyshawn Elliott, all those guys are going to go in this draft. Tech is going to have one heck of a draft, mostly on the defensive side of the ball. I think Jacob Rodriguez will be the second one of them picked. David Bailey obviously is going to go in the top 5 to 7 picks. Depending on, it's funny, like that video leaked of that photographer incident that he had against Arizona State. I don't really think that's going to affect him all that much. I don't think NFL teams care enough about that. If there was something off the field, like off the field, then yes. But getting mad at a photographer, I think that's a pretty minor problem, unless there's something else we don't know about.
Yeah, I don't know enough, and I don't want to speculate too much. But yeah, I don't think that'll probably be a career ruiner by any means.
No, absolutely not. Craig, anything else that we need to get to before we go to the top 5?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. It is now time for the top 5.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. Today, we're talking top 5 ACC players currently in the college basketball transfer portal. Let's jump right into it. Number 5, Muhammad Silla from Georgia Tech, a 6'10 freshman from Senegal, averaged 9.6 points, 7.2 rebounds, and just under 1 assist, and shot about 58% because he's never too far away from the rim. Really a space eater down there, 6'10", 240. Long, lanky guy, can play good defense, get you boards. Really, really powerful presence down low. Will apparently not be playing for new coach Scott Cross, so it's a bummer for them, but we'll find his money in the transfer portal and moving on. Number 4, Marcus Burton from Notre Dame. Isn't it weird to say Notre Dame in a conference? We're talking about basketball, which every other sport is in a conference. It's just weird for me to put Notre Dame in a list when it talks about conference. But Marcus Burton getting recruited heavily by in-state neighbor Indiana, 18.5 points a game, almost 3 assists, almost 4 assists, and almost 3 rebounds a game, shoots 48.9 from the field. A point guard, guy can play the 1 or the 2, do a lot of different things, but he's a scorer. He can fill up the bucket for you and make key shots. Number 3, Donnie Freeman from Syracuse, 6'9", 205 forward out of Washington, D.C. Originally 16.5 points a game, 7.2 rebounds, 1.3 assists, shoots 47% from the floor. Really excellent player. Everybody's in on this guy. Really, people are super excited about him. Jerry McNamara probably not going to be able to keep him. He's going to go cash in. Number 2, Nicholas Avdalis of Virginia Tech, 6'9", 215 freshman from Greece, 12.1 points, 3 rebounds, 4.6 assists per game, shooting just under 39%. That will improve as he goes along. Long body, stretch guard, guy can play a couple of different places, really has a ton of potential. This is an NBA caliber player, going to be in the portal, going to help somebody out a ton. And let's get to our number 1 ACC player in the portal, point guard Juke Harris, 6'7", 200 from Wake Forest, 22 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, 2 assists, shoots 44%. He is going to go big. Whoever gets him is getting a star. And Juke Harris out of Wake Forest, biggest one of the ACC. That one should, I think, come down here in the next couple of days. We'll see. That's going to do for the top 5. Rez, spin the wheel. Okay.
Which college basketball team
fan base of the year.
Which college basketball team wins fan base of the year?
Yeah.
I don't know. Michigan, I guess.
Yeah, I think
you win the national title, then you probably got a pretty excited fan base.
Yeah. I'm not going to say Kansas just to score points with my wife.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that because they could do that every year. They're a great fan base. Very loyal. Know the game well. You said Michigan. For the sake of being different and for the sake of this segment not being boring, you know what? I'm going to say Illinois. I think Illinois really showed out for their team.
Yeah.
They showed out really, really well for Brad Underwood and his team full of Euros and all those guys. So, yeah, I think Illinois, I was really impressed with watching them in the Final Four or wherever they were going nuts. A lot of the Big Ten teams, Iowa, Nebraska had, of course, Nebraska fans, when it comes to sports they've got nothing else going on in a good way. Like that's what they do. That's their thing. That's their passion. So, volleyball has a great following. Football, in spite of all of it, has a great following. Basketball gets that following. Baseball. And have you ever been to a Nebraska baseball team, especially when they're really good? I saw them play down here and in College Station and in Austin a couple times, and they bring their people wherever they go back when they're in the Big 12. So they don't mess around at Nebraska. Okay, to the trivia questions. On this day in 1989, which future Hall of Famer hit his first Major League career home run in his very first at bat at home stadium? Well, considering that Derek Jeter and Cal Ripken was already well established. Derek Jeter wasn't even drafted yet. He wasn't drafted until the 90s. Chipper Jones also not either. And I knew this anyway. It's the kid.
Yeah, I'd say
Ken
Griffey.
Griffey Jr.
Yeah, Griffey.
Yes. Maybe of a team of that era of a team. I didn't like the Mariners. I didn't care about the Mariners. But if Ken Griffey Jr. was on, I was watching the game. I love Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, he was my favorite player in a lot of ways, who was not on my favorite team. There were some other guys that I thought were pretty entertaining and good, depending on the years. And yeah, it was Ken Griffey Jr. Yeah, he was just cool. He was so cool. I remember when his cleats first came out. That watch the mic there, Paul. The cleats first came out, and I unfortunately didn't get a pair, but my buddy did, and it was just the coolest thing. And then his batting gloves came out, and yeah, everybody wanted to be like Ken Griffey Jr., tried to emulate that swing, try to just be cool out on the baseball diamond. He was the definition of that. So yeah, on April 10th, 1989, the kid stepped up for his first at bat at the Seattle Kingdom and launched a home run. Man, my eye doctor would be really happy for me. Home run, the first pitch he saw, it was the first of 630 career homers for the Mariners legend. This came exactly 1 week after he doubled his first ever MLB plate appearance in Oakland.
Yeah, he's still, you can go online right now, and there's several sites that just have Ken Griffey Jr. merch. There's one called Baseballism.
I don't know. I would have to check. I would bet good money, though, or a $5 that if I went to Roots of Fight right now, which does some legend campaign clothing lines, I would think Ken Griffey Jr. would be one of the guys they would have on there. I'm going to actually look at that, but he just strikes me as being cool enough to be there with Muhammad Ali and Walter Payton's on here. I don't know. I might be wrong on Griffey, but he's that kind of a guy. Nope, they got Ken Griffey Jr. merch. I freaking told you, man.
Yeah.
I just struck me as he's iconic. That's the word I was looking for. He is iconic. And so, yeah, Ken Griffey is awesome.
Yeah, he was.
And a great photographer now.
Yeah.
He actually, weird how he and Randy Johnson both ventured out into becoming sports photographers. But, yeah, Griffey was at the World Baseball Classic and getting a lot of pub while he was down there taking pictures.
Yeah, Randy Johnson's only problem is you got to sit him in the back.
Right, yeah. Tall sucker.
So he doesn't block any other photographers, because even sitting down or kneeling down, he's still taller than, me. So next trivia question. And this does take, Rez told me this does take a second to cycle through. Okay. Rez, can you blow that up for me? During the 2004 edition of The Game, students from which university pulled off a legendary prank by tricking their rivals into holding up cards that spelled out "We suck"? The game is Harvard and Yale, right?
I believe so. I mean, the game is Ohio State, Michigan. But I believe I may have seen something like a clip from this years ago, because obviously it was years ago at this point. I think it was Yale.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Yale. Boom! Yeah. At the annual Harvard-Yale football game on November 20th, 2004, 2 Yale students pulled off one of college sports' greatest pranks, orchestrating a card stunt on the Harvard side. Fans were told it would spell Go Harvard, but instead unknowingly mocked themselves on national TV. Yale even registered harvardsucks.org to host the video evidence.org. That's interesting that they went that route. Okay, to the poll questions now. Which historic college football program would you love to see return to prominence in today's game? The winner, overwhelmingly, Nebraska, 45%. I'm not surprised about this, Craig, that Nebraska got this, because they're the one who puts the most resources towards this. So I think most people would like to see someone who is doing this actually succeed. But Army at 27%, not a surprise to me either. I would love to see the service academies just be regular participants in being awesome and having good teams. I love it when they're both good. It makes it better. Yale at 17%, and then the Gophers at 11%.
Yale, pretty healthy number.
Yeah.
I mean, they won national titles back in the day, unless I'm just mixing them up with the other Ivy League schools that won national titles back in the day. But yeah, that's a strong number, 17%. That wouldn't do much for me personally. I just don't know. I never watched much Ivy League football, but
we have a ton of Ivy League. We are essentially Ivy Leaguers ourselves.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We have a lot of Ivy League viewers.
Yeah, but no, that's a good number. Nebraska would be my pick, though. I mean, of all these four, it's the big brand that was the team of the 90s in so many ways, or at least the mid 90s, and them being at this point like a 20-year just sort of mid program it's like they've had their medicine. They had their run of success where they probably, even though it's Nebraska fans, so they're nicer than most, they probably still were obnoxious in some ways when you're winning 3 out of 4 national titles and having all the success that they were having for decades. But it's been long enough of them being kind of the laughing stock of the brand that's not ever back all of the way, even though they're doing their damnedest to be back. So yeah, and being there last year or 2 years ago now for their home game, that was a special experience, and would love to go back one day, but that was an all-timer for me. So always will have a soft spot in my heart for Nebraska.
Not that all fan bases don't care the same or care. I like seeing fan bases that care rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not the Nebraska fans' fault the team has been mediocre. It's not like I was talking about the Pirates when we were talking about Connor Griffin yesterday or Off the Radar.
Right.
It's not the fans' fault. Like it's people who make decisions that they have nothing to do with that it has been. So that's why, that's why they really do care. They really do care. It's a huge part of their life. I felt
culture.
I felt this way about Iowa State for years in football before Jamie Pollard was the AD there. And it's not even maybe the AD sometimes, it's the leadership. It's just like, hey, you guys, like, you got a 4-8 football team out there that the parking lot's full and the stadium is full. Why don't you award these people with a good team and then see what you can do? And they finally did.
Well, it's not like it's been for a lack of trying, like you said, and they just haven't been able to put it all together. And even when you feel like you're maybe getting close, like last year with Raiola and all of that, and then you still stumble and you lose. And I know I'm getting last 2 seasons ago is when I went to Nebraska, but the Illinois game was a prime example of like, there we are. It's a Friday night, huge home game, packed to the gills, and they lose to Illinois in this dramatic game. It's like they just stumble. They always stumble before they can hit that full stride. And I don't know how many more laps Matt Rule has in Lincoln, because I mean, we're now entering year 3 of him there, and is it 3 or 4? Okay, because last year was all he always gets it together in year 3, and then they were pretty much the same as usual. So yeah, I mean, I love Nebraska. Grew up watching Nebraska. Tommy Frazier's probably still my favorite college football player ever, and at this point probably will always be my favorite college football player ever. Would love to see the Huskers back in the mix.
Yeah. Next, poll question. Which brand makes the absolute best golf ball? I'll just tell you who I voted for. I voted for TaylorMade. And why did I vote for TaylorMade? They're one of our fantastic sponsors. They also make a great golf ball. So TaylorMade.
Made by Taylor.
Yeah.
Sure. TaylorMade.
Yeah.
Or Titleist.
Titleist won.
The audience.
Titleist won. Callaway and TaylorMade tie at 21%. But
I don't have an opinion on this other than what's best for the brand, I guess. But I don't play enough golf to have an educated opinion on this. I know that, well, screw it. I know that, like, whenever my brother-in-law or my father or whoever gets golf balls, usually Titleist.
Titleist. Look, it's Titleist. That was what Kramer used.
Yeah.
When he hit the ball in the whale, he used a Titleist, but I'm partial to TaylorMade. TaylorMade. Better than all these because I freaking said so. TaylorMade.
There you go.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Have a great weekend, everybody. Smokey and Craig are back on Monday. My new show starts on May 1st. We'll have an announcement soon about that. Thank you for watching. Thanks so much. See you later, everybody.